All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast as we are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X for the final time of 2026 Mets spring training coverage going into opening day. But before we get into all of that, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel for new episodes of our show that in the future will be recorded after every single series of regular season games as we transform into the regular season of baseball for the New York Mets. And for those watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok. For our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all your favorite listening platforms to not miss the audio version of new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day. Also, make sure to give us a 5-star review. It would be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into episode number 193 of our show. And Frank, less than 24 hours to go to first pitch. Freddie Peralta is going to toe the mound. Your guy is going to face off against the reigning Cy Young Award winner. We'll get into the preview, obviously, for opening day. But either way, plenty to talk about. We've got a special guest joining us as well, which we'll get into. But Frank, the pregame jitters of Game 1, I think we all feel them. We're like, okay, what season is this going to be? Because we all know the first game always determines what's going to happen, and then we're doomed. So, I mean, it's a fun feeling. The beginning of baseball season. It's always young and fun.
Yeah, I mean, Mets have historically been pretty good on opening day, so that doesn't always mean they're going the last day of the season, but the first day of the season tends to go pretty well. But overall, it's going to be a nice test for them. I mean, right off the bat, facing the best pitcher in the league. It's good for a lot of these new bats in this lineup. I mean, they're not going to be facing Paul Skeens in the postseason, all things being considered, but you are going to be facing elite pitching. And that's something that, I mean, we know it's going to be like game in, game out. You have to be able to compete with these guys, especially when you have the best rotation in the world on your side. You're going to need your bats to produce. They've made a big time effort for this lineup, but we've talked about it before. Like last year, they spent so much on the lineup and didn't really get the job done for the most part of the season. So it's like I said, it's a good test. It's always fun to get it done on opening day. Opening against the Pirates is kind of weird. It's not a team they normally open up against, but you know what? Like you said, at least baseball is back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's been a long off season, definitely. A lot of discourse, a lot of debates in and out. I'm just ready to play some baseball, personally. I'm excited to see something new. As we all know, this is a new team. There is a lot of new faces, and it was a turnover that they definitely needed, in my opinion, from underachieving as much as they did, and we've gotten into that plenty. But either way, we are going to break down everything you guys need to know from the end of spring training to the beginning of baseball season, regular season, that will be starting off at Citi Field, Mets versus Pirates. But before then, like we said, we have a very special guest joining us today for the first time. He is in his first year as a New York Mets beat reporter for New Jersey Advanced Media of NJ.com, giving us non-stop coverage during spring training, if you may have been seeing over on Twitter from Port St. Lucie, and also on his YouTube channel. Speaking of the Mets, please help us welcome Mets beat reporter Max Goodman to the show. Max, great to have you on. Welcome to Mets Weekly.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're doing good. I think, again, like we said, the opening day jitters. I think we're all just like, oh, what is this team going to look like? We're obviously invested in it as much as we are. But we figured that, with you being in your first year, with the Mets, organization, with, the Mets fan base around it, it can be very, I don't know what can we call
Passionate.
this, Frank?
They're
Passionate,
very passionate.
a lot.
Yes.
There's a lot. And to ease you in, you can speak some truths, give us your insight and everything before you get swept away in the wrong crowd, because there's some wrong crowds here. It's dangerous. Let's just say that.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to this year. It was a great spring. Moving over from a new beat is always exciting and daunting, and all of the different emotions. But I always find it funny when on social media people will say, like, what do you think compared to last year with this clubhouse? And it's just like, I wasn't in there. So
Yeah.
my perspective is unique in terms of the rest of the beat, and it's fresh in that way. But there were a lot of new faces regardless. So I can only speak to what I've seen these last couple of weeks and months, and I'm looking forward to having some actual games to talk about too, as you guys mentioned off the top.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can say from experience, I wasn't in the clubhouse. None of us were in the clubhouse. But from the feeling around the team last year, you're in a better spot right now because last year was not fun. It was very grimacing, very
No
it
pun
was a
intended.
long season. Yep, no pun intended. But it was one of those things that it was a team that was really, really slowly but surely painfully digging their own grave. And that was basically what we were talking about so much last year about this team. Of how we were noticing a lot of the red flags. People can give their opinions, obviously. There's fans who are fans of the team. If they don't like what you're saying about their team, they're going to go after you, especially in New York. It's a passionate fan base, like we said. But it's definitely a good, different look, personally, and changes that needed to be made. After, the 7 years that you weren't here with that group, it was time to move on. They had plenty of chances. And for them to have a new look here, a new outlook, it's just a lot more. I'm a little bit more optimistic as to what the ceiling of this team could possibly be. I don't know, Frank, if you're on more of the pessimistic side here, because obviously they did let go of a lot of key players. They did. But I will say right now it looks a lot more of a deeper, optimal team that also has young talent that could possibly be on the way that also don't need to be a world beater at the beginning. And we'll get into Carson Benge, who did make the opening day roster. We'll get into all of that. But it's a little bit more of a feeling right now where I believe that you can play through a team right now and you don't just need to say, well, what is this star player doing? If they don't do anything, we're done. I need a deep lineup, a deep team, and a team is what wins games. That's what wins games, and hopefully we're not masking constant issues and red flags like we were last year.
I think overall, like if you're talking about opening day, you look at this year and last year. I mean, how many of the names are the same? I mean, it's very few. I mean, and to start off, we're going to talk about, but you have a rookie out there starting your right field, your top hitting prospect. Like they were older last year. Starling Marte, he was out there much more frequently. So, like I said, right off the bat, they've gotten younger, might be a little deeper, and just overall, it's going to be a totally different look. Whether change is good or bad, we'll see. But something did need to change. I mean, based off the way last season went, no doubt about it. They did that this offseason. So, like we said, hopefully it works out.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Max. Yeah.
Sure. No, I mean, following from afar, I think that in a market like this with the expectations that this team had, I applaud the Mets for acting, without sentimentality this past offseason, because I know that was hard for them to make those decisions that they knew that the fan base was not going to necessarily be thrilled with right away, especially when you look at like the chronology of how their offseason went. I mean, there was a stretch there where it was just, what the heck is this team doing, right? But I mean, the fans that bought in, I think, you're reaping the benefits of entrusting in what the plans were and what the backup plans were, because I do think that this roster, as it looks on paper right now, with health, with the good vibes of what comes with an opening day, I do think that the ceiling is pretty darn high with this club. And you talk about what Mendoza and Stearns were speaking about today, that this is a club that is trying to go out and win a World Series, or at the very least be a consistent playoff contender that can go deep into October every year. And that core, as special as it was for a lot of fans, it wasn't getting the job done. And I think that at a certain point, you have to make those changes, as hard as it may be. It is a business, right? So, again, a pat on the back for them to make those tough decisions and move on from some fan favorites. But if it doesn't work out, then it's back to square one next offseason too. I mean, you gotta see how this new roster actually does perform between the lines.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things like right off the bat, you mentioned the health. That's a big thing because last spring training we talked about it. As soon as it started, Mania went down, Frankie Montas went down. We're like, man, these guys just got off the plane, and we already have injuries in the pitching rotation. They're not getting guys to fill in. But this year, it felt like they took things a lot more slowly. We talked about one of our recent episodes, but Luis Robert, the way they slowly integrate him into action. Francisco Alvarez, Brett Beatty, a lot of these guys, they really took it easy to make sure that they got through spring training fully healthy. And now when they're going into opening day, I mean, the roster's about as healthy as you could want it to be. I mean, Mike Talkman, what happened there, it stinks. Minter, we knew he's been battling injuries for a while now. But overall, I mean, relatively, they have been very healthy. So we're very excited about that because we know health is a huge thing, especially you don't have a lot of depth. Like, that could ruin a season. It could look great on paper. You could spend a bunch of money, but you have a few injuries and it's all over. And to your other point, the short-term deals that they made. I mean, you talk about like Bichette and some of these other guys they brought in. Like, they didn't sign another 10-year deal. They didn't sign a 15-year deal. So like you said, if this doesn't work, they could easily restructure this again. It's not something where, oh, we got rid of our core guys, we brought in new ones, and now we're stuck with these new guys forever. I mean, they definitely did a lot of short-term deals to give them that flexibility to adjust as they need to.
Yeah.
Well, it's finding the balance between this is a team that perennially has one of the highest payrolls in the league, but also has done a pretty solid job recently at developing talent, homegrown talent. And that's why when you have a Nolan McLean and a Carson Benge that are going to be impacting the big league club right away, but also, like you said, those short-term deals, getting Bichette, bringing in whoever else that they did in this offseason, Devin Williams, those kind of acquisitions. That's what the good teams are able to do, because not only will some of their top prospects actually play for this team in the next couple of years and beyond, but they can also turn the Jet Williamses and the Brandon Sproats into talent that's going to impact the big league club as well. I think that was one of my biggest takeaways from spring training, not to get ahead of myself with what you guys have planned for the show. The fact that a lot of the young players, not only the kids who are going to impact the big league club this year, but they showed out this spring. And the goal from them, when you hear, Stearns mention this midway through spring training, was every year to have a new crop of young players performing at a high level in Grapefruit League play, because that means that, one, the ones who did well this year won't be considered in that same group next year because they've either been moved to impact the big league club or they're on the MLB roster, making your team better. It's that next group that means that you drafted well, you signed internationally well, and you're developing those raw talents into actually, potential big leaguers down the road. So that's the cycle that every team is trying to navigate. But when you also have Steve Cohen in charge, you can also plug some holes with some money in there too. So you got to make sure that you're doing both things.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I think with the player development is something that is huge. And that's the one thing that I really do believe in, the infrastructure that David Stearns has put out here. And it's one thing that has required one thing that New Yorkers are not something. This is not something that they want to get. Like they do not want to give out their own patience. They don't. And that's the one thing that I think building from the ground up with players that Stearns likes or players that the organization likes, and probably weeding out some of the pieces that maybe they did not bring in, or some of the pieces that, maybe they're not as high on. It takes a little time. And like you just said with, the pipeline of guys who will likely be out there next spring training to showcase and be seen as everyday pieces that you come to the ballpark on vacation to watch, such as AJ Ewing or such as Carson Benge, Jacob Reimer, another guy who had a very good spring as well, even Chris Suaro, who's in the lower levels now in the minor leagues. Like these pieces of guys who you see them develop. And Frank, we even talked about this a lot as well, of a lot of the prospects that either they acquired or a lot of the prospects that they drafted or developed. We did see a certain ceiling with a lot of them, a certain ceiling where they would hit that ceiling and then they would just kind of drop, and it's like, oh, well, where did this guy go? Like what just happened here? And there was a lot of a stall out there. And they would be like, well, are we going to call him up as like the 26th man on the roster or something like that? Like, you are seeing a lot of guys who possibly have the potential to be everyday players at the major league level. And if not, you also have Steve Cohen's wallet, which you can use to bring in those types of pieces. And having all of those resources is what is so important. The only thing it takes is patience, which is something that is going to test a lot of Mets fans. It will, 100%. They're New Yorkers. They want things right now. And there's going to be criticism, and some criticism that is merited, and some that isn't, and some that is completely just asinine. But when it comes to a lot of, the feel of this organization, it seems like there's such a better foundation right now that is building to that point where you can just have a pipeline of pieces where you're like, oh, we lost this prospect to injury. Well, we got another 3 coming up in the lower levels. Like, it's one of those things where a pipeline is important, and it's not just, well, we have a few guys here, maybe they'll hit. We'll put them in a situation where maybe they won't develop whatsoever. We'll give them a hitting coach that argues with people on Instagram. I don't know, Max, if you were here for that. But it was just one of those things that it needed to change. The infrastructure needed to change from the ground up. Well, also they were spending money at the top as well, because Steve Cohen can wipe his ass with $100 bills and, tax write-off.
Well, the only other prospect on this topic thing that I'll mention, and it came up today at the stadium at the workout, I'm wondering if we'll see a new version of David Stearns moving forward in terms of managing the farm system because of how highly ranked it is. The Freddie Peralta trade isn't necessarily in line with his MO in terms of his role in a front office. Like, they traded 2 of their top, 4 or 5 prospects. I don't remember what the rankings were last year. And those guys are going to not just impact the Brewers roster this year. I mean, they're legitimate pieces at the big league level. Now, does that mean that there's this overwhelming sense of urgency here where everybody's on the table? I mean, they gave Carson Benge a shot to make the team, and he did. And that might have not necessarily happened in years past. And that all traces back to what we talked about at the beginning, that it's been 40 years since this team has won a championship in a market where the expectation is every year to contend for a championship. So it's far too long, right? And that's not any of us being too negative. It's the same thing on the Yankees side. It's been far too long for them too, where the expectation is to win. So I'm wondering, because injuries are inevitable, unforeseen circumstances will come up for sure. What does this team do at the trade deadline? We're not even at opening day. Maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself.
Yeah.
But if you have this renowned farm system, do you push all the chips forward? Because we heard it from Cohen when he spoke this spring. Like, he's fed up with watching this team not win, and in last fall's case, not even making it to October. So that's the perk of having a strong farm system, is that option is on the table for them. They could just go all out and address this team even more so than they have already, while also supplementing with the financial deep pockets that they have.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think is great. And Frank, I'll let you add into that and we'll get into their opening day roster. But that's one thing of, like, when you look at the Dodgers of an organization that it seems like is the model as of right now, they pretty much have it all. Like, they have some cost controllable pieces. They have young pieces as well. They have so much that they can use those resources for, but it never seems to be something that is a detriment to them. They don't have like a Starling Marte contract that we had here for 4 years that was blocking a lot of things. Like, they were able to maneuver a lot of things from all levels. And that's the one thing as to why I want them to get to that level where maybe we can have Steve Cohen's financial flexibility. You have a great baseball mind in David Stearns, who has built such a great infrastructure with the Brewers, that became such a sustainable winner, but without that financial flexibility. So you have all of these elements that can tie up all loose ends, and that's where I feel like that's where I want the level, them to get to that level. They're not completely there yet. They still need to, let's get to the playoffs in back-to-back seasons. That's what I want to see first. Like, baby steps, people, baby steps, something they weren't able to do. So it's more of just the fact of, that feeling of, maybe certain players that maybe are not valued as much by David Stearns, of old regimes, other different styles and other different trends. And I talk about this all before, of a lot of these players like Mark Vientos, who's been a talk for not so good reasons, or even guys like, either Brett Beatty or, Ronnie Mauricio, who were in these older regimes. And it is one of those things that I think is so telling with either if these guys, what they see as the ceiling for them, where do they go from there, and what is their future with this organization? And when you look at the types of players that they were bringing in and drafting and developing in comparison to now, you do see a difference. A lot of guys who provide you a lot of tools in the margins, who could, apply themselves to, or apply their skills to help you win in so many certain ways. And the main reason as to why I like that so much is because you can incorporate those pieces from the farm system. They don't need to be stars. And then you can also use this insane amount of money that Steve Cohen has to go and get those stars to headline your team as well. Such as, like we said, Carson Benge doesn't need to be a world beater at all offensively. He's going to bat ninth. He's going to slowly, chill here, but he also has those tools to provide. To be an everyday MLB player, guys like I like to call as gravy level bats. If they hit at a above average level, it's all gravy, because with them as major leaguers, they can give you defense, speed, a fantastic arm in the outfield, or whatever it may be. So I do believe that, again, with these prospects, it's a lot different of a take. And I also think that it sets up a little bit more winning baseball in an era that needs more athletes now. It definitely needs more athletes, shift going away, bigger bases. We can go on forever for this. But Frank, if you want to wrap up with this whole thing with the farm system, because it has been on full on display this spring. And it has been very, very exciting to see a lot of these young guys perform the way that they have in comparison to some of the guys that, maybe do a little thing or two in spring and then we're like, back to minor league camp, buddy.
Yeah, I think there's definitely has been a shift in the way they've operated. We were critical of Stern's first year. The team had some issues, but he was not willing to move any prospects, it felt like, at all. Anyone inside the top 10. They had that brutal trade deadline a couple years ago where we were like, man, this team could use some upgrades, and then I've moved in the top 10. What's going on here? And then last trade deadline, we saw him dip into the top 10 a little bit, get these rental relievers, which we were very surprised about based off how he had been operating. And then to Max's point, they went one step further by moving Sproat and Jet Williams. And before Carson Benge got into the system, and Noah McLean was a very fast riser, within, I would say, 2024, Jet and Sproat were 1 and 2 in the system. Those were the top two guys. And then because you brought in Carson Benge to this organization, then you had Noah McLean be a fast riser, Jonah Tong be a fast riser. All of a sudden, they became a little more expendable. You were more okay with moving a Jet Williams. You were more okay with moving a Brandon Sproat because you had McLean, you had Tong. So that was really nice to see. And then, like you mentioned, you have guys who are starting this year on the opening day roster. But if something were to happen, well, Ronnie Mauricio is still in AAA. You still have Tong in AAA. You have Christian Scott in AAA. So it's like, as Max mentioned, listen, 162 things are going to happen. We know it's going to. You're not, like we said, you're not going to have 5-starring pitchers. Not going to have a 26-man roster. So as these things are coming up, it's nice. It's like, oh, well, guess what? We have another really nice prospect that we could turn to when the situations pop up. So, like we said, that's how you build a sustained winner. You need to have, like we said, multiple pieces that are contributing. And like you said, finding other ways to win, because slumps are going to happen. But if you're someone like a Benge who could do multiple things, you can still provide an impact. Meanwhile, like we've talked about with Vientos, if he's not starting the game, well, what is he doing? He's not coming as a pinch runner. He's not coming as a defensive replacement. And then all he has left is a pitcher. And if his bat is struggling, what's he doing here? He's just kind of hanging out, So it is nice to have these players that are just much more versatile. It just helps you a ton in the long run.
Yeah, look, I asked David Stearns today what it is that gives him confidence that this roster, after watching it in spring training, is capable of winning a World Series. And he said it's because of how well balanced they are, how they're equipped in his mind to handle the adversity, the injuries, and the underperformance that will inevitably pop up during the season. And I do think that this team is more versatile than it's been. I think that they're going to score runs with rallies, not just relying on on the home run ball. And I think that one of their strong suits, regardless of how healthy 1 through 5 in the rotation stays, but 6 through 10 is a strong suit for them as well. So as much as, let's say, the Dodgers have won these past 2 World Series, right? So they have so much top level talent on that team, but it takes a village. It's not just 3 players. So if the Mets do want to dethrone a team like that, and obviously the playoffs in the National League run through Los Angeles, they need their stars to perform at a high level. They need the X factors in the middle to take steps forward, the phenoms to finally put a full season together. And in that category, I'd put Beatty, Alvarez, Robert Jr., Simeon, like those middle ground players that could maybe change a season if they break out, but also would doom you if they're, total duds this year. And then the peripheral players too. I mean, we're talking about with Minaya today, like obviously he's going to make starts because there will be injuries in the rotation, but there's a chance where Christian Scott, Jonah Tong, Tobias Myers, and the like make more starts than him because they've just been pitching so well and are deserving of more opportunities. So, we'll look back in October at what the keys were for the Mets to go on a deep postseason run if that's what happens. And it's not just going to be, Juan Soto was an MVP candidate. Obviously, you look even beyond the 26 guys that made the club this year.
Yeah. Juan Soto was an MVP candidate last year, and we missed the postseason. So what does that tell you, folks? It's a team game. It's great to have stars, but it's also a team game. Tony in the chat saying Mets fans have no patience. What makes you say that, Tony? What makes you say that? That doesn't make any sense. Come on. Everybody's so patient here in New York. Either way, as we've talked about throughout the organization, they did decide on 26 guys that are going to be on the day one roster. So let's pull it up right here and break it down completely. And there's some, discourse going on around it. We'll get into that, obviously. And we'll also get into a injury, like we said, to Mike Tauchman and the implications of that. But as for the day one unit here, not as many surprises, but there are a few that we can talk about as some pieces that maybe won't be here for that long. As for the pitchers, Huascar Brazoban, as we expected, Luis Garcia, Clay Holmes, Richard Lovelady, welcome back, buddy. Sean Manaea, like we said, Nolan McLean, Tobias Myers, Freddie Peralta, David Peterson, Brooks Raley, Kodai Senga, Luke Weaver, and Devin Williams. The catchers, Francisco Alvarez and Luis Torrens, as expected. The infielders, Brett Beatty, Bo Bichette, Francisco Lindor, Jorge Polanco, Marcus Simeon, and Mark Vientos. Outfielders, Carson Benge, the kid, has made it to the show. Congratulations to him. Luis Robert Jr., Juan Soto. How did Juan Soto make this team? I have no idea. Tyrone Taylor, Jared Young, who, whether you list him as an outfielder, infielder, I have him listed as an outfielder here. Some of the guys starting on the IL, 4 guys on the 60-day IL, which is Garrett, Justin Hageman, who had a gruesome rib injury, apparently. Tyler McGill, Danelle Nunez, who's down with Tyler McGill, and Danelle Nunez, obviously down with Tommy John. Then we also have AJ Minter, who is starting the year on the IL as expected, recovering from lat surgery. And then the rest of the 40-man, Alex Carrillo, Joey Gerber, Jonathan Pintaro, Dylan Ross, Christian Scott, Jonah Tong, Austin Warren, Hayden Sanger, Ronnie Mauricio, MJ Melendez, and Nick Morabito, who is also a prospect that was protected during the Rule 5 draft. So you obviously see this roster, and there are a few things that point out. Obviously, Carson Benge, like we already hinted at a little bit. Max, I'll go to you here. I think there's a few things that obviously stand out. There's Richard Lovelady, who gets the final bullpen spot on day one. We know he was not fantastic as a Met last year. You weren't here last year, so maybe you don't know, the story of Richard Lovelady, but he was DFA'd and brought back like 6 times, so that basically tells you the story. And then we also see Jared Young get the final outfield spot, which, again, I was kind of expecting it because he's a left-handed bat, and so is Mike Tauchman, but this is the cost of Mike Tauchman's injury. And I think that that's basically what you're seeing here.
Well, if we're honing in on just those two guys and the decision-making process there, I think it's important to preface that opening day is just one game. And I know there's a lot of pomp and circumstance to it, and the guys are going to be lining up, and the ratings will be better than a random Tuesday in the middle of June. But they're just organizing this roster with the best group in terms of starting the season on a high note. And you know, with Lovelady, they like the fact that he can throw multiple innings and the fact that he throws strikes. I mean, his role is going to be eating up innings in a game that gets out of hand early on, if we're being candid about it. And same thing with Young. I mean, Young's not going to necessarily be starting that much. If you're in a situation where those guys are playing a lot, then, you know, the you-know-what has hit the fan in different ways. And I think that Young didn't surprise me that he made the club after the Tauchman injury, because he's on the 40. He's a left-handed hitter, as you mentioned. I mean, the other three guys on the bench are righties, and there's more upside with him offensively in terms of a pinch hit appearance or making a spot start against a tough right-handed pitcher than Vidal Brujan, who they designated for assignment. And as much as Brujan, I think it's Brujan, the fact that he can play all over the field on defense, they don't really need a backup infielder to start the season because Lindor is ready to go. And all I've heard is that he plays pretty much every day all year. And I've been very impressed with how quickly he's been able to come back from the hamate bone surgery. And it seems like he's just 100% and good to start the year. Worst case, if he ever needed
the most insane pain tolerance you'll probably ever see, Francisco Lindor. Insane.
And I respect that a lot because of the load management that goes on around not just baseball, but sports as a whole. And if there's a situation where he needs a day or he's going to come out because of an injury, you can always slide Bichette over. And other guys on the infield have also played short in their career. And the next day you call Mauricio up if you need to. So doesn't mean that these guys are going to be on the team the whole year. So for the fans that maybe are scratching their heads, this is just who the Mets had in front of them. And I'm sure that they scoured the rest of the industry to see if there was an upgrade from another team. But as Stern said this afternoon, they were comfortable with the in-house options that they had after finding that balance between seeing what else is out there and then evaluating their internal options. I'm a little surprised, if anything, that Brian Hudson didn't make the club, but that's more in terms of what I thought about him going into spring training when they picked him up, and you see the ceiling for him with what he did in 2024 with the Brewers. And ultimately, it seems like they just didn't see that version of him this spring for them to want to designate him for assignment. Because like you mentioned, Lovelady's been in and out in terms of getting DFA'd quite a bit. So he's more expendable in that way. For them to cut Hudson loose like this and put him in a position where another team could scoop him up, that says a lot about what they thought of his spring.
Yeah, it definitely was disappointing because I know that they traded, was it Cash, I think, for him? He also had a really good season like 2 seasons ago, and then he was like banged up or something. There was something that happened with him. He's like 6'8", right? He's a big guy. And he had a few rough outings, obviously, and they ended up designated him for assignment, and then they brought in Old Faithful, Richard Lovelady, who, again, like which we theorized on our last episode, Max, we were talking about maybe, there's like a tunnel in the clubhouses that he just keeps getting back here. But listen, if we have Richard Lovelady playing on opening day, like we said, this is just the day one unit, who knows? If we do have Richard Lovelady pitching on opening day, that means that something really, really bad happened with Freddie Peralta on the mound in opening day, and you hope that does not
really
happen.
Good. I mean, they could be
or really good.
One too.
Could be possible, maybe. But unfortunately, here in the Mets fan base, we come from the pessimistic side, so that's where we expect the worst first. It's kind of in our DNA here, and you'll probably learn as you go through the first year here. But either way, Frank, before I go to you, and I'll talk a little bit about what happened to Mike Tauchman. Suffered a meniscus tear in his left knee before exiting Saturday's game early in the 4th inning. It will require his second knee surgery in 6 months after undergoing the same procedure in his right knee. He felt discomfort running out of the box in the 3rd inning, and while he was making a play in right field, felt the discomfort once again in the 4th inning. The timeline for his return has not been announced. And obviously, like we said, he signed a minor league deal. So again, like in certain like transaction way, it's not that big of a, seen as big of a loss because of him being on a minor league deal and he's not on a roster spot. There's nobody to replace him. However, like we said, a guy like Jared Young probably is not in this combination or in this equation if Mike Tauchman is still healthy. And like we've said with Mike Tauchman, could be the first bat off the bench against a right-handed pitcher, or he could also make a start for you because over the last 3 seasons, he's been what was it, 113 OPS plus bat. Like, he's been a really good hitter, and in that certain role as a veteran, as a possible part-time player, that could have helped. But unfortunately, he ends up going down with his second knee surgery in 6 months, like I said, which is just brutal, especially at 35 years old. That's not something that you want. However, meniscus we've seen is a little bit less major in comparison to like Achilles or MCL or ACL. I mean, there's plenty. I'm not a doctor, whatever. But Frank, I'll go to you, obviously. At this point, I'm done with the discourse of the opening day because David Stearns has proven over these last 2 seasons that the same roster you're seeing right now is not going to be the same you see in May or June or, like we said, already jumping ahead to the trade deadline. Like, who knows what this is going to look like. We've seen him rebuild bullpens on a fly during trade deadlines. I mean, we've seen so many different things of them showing this no nonsense of, he doesn't perform, he's out of here. I don't see as many that much shocking on here for day one, like we said, given the circumstances that they are at.
I mean, to me personally, like if it was up to me, I would have rather had Melendez out there than Jared Young. I think Melendez showed us a little more this spring. Yeah. And we saw Jared Young on the Mets this past season, and like it was not great. And I think for me, from a managing perspective, if I'm bringing as a pinch hitter, who am I pinch hitting him for? I mean, that's the thing, is that like unless Torrens makes a start, and then you have to put Alvarez back in the game, which if Torrens is starting, probably don't want Alvarez to play at all. On that, he'd be pinching for Tyrone Taylor when he makes a start. Because I mean, if I have, you look at the top door, Lindor, Soto, Bichette, all these guys, Robert, Semien, if all these guys have to play, why am I saying, you know what, let me put Jared Young out there? I mean, even right on right, I'm like, it's fine, because like we always say, put the best baseball players out there, right, left,
possibly.
Left, right. I mean, sometimes when the disparity in talent is that drastic, you stick with the better option. So that's just my opinion. But overall, I think when looking at this 40-man roster, they are a little limited in what they want to do. I understand having Ronnie want to get like more full-time reps. Yeah. I get that. However, this past season, especially in the second half, we saw Ronnie on the bench for like a month. And then an injury happened, and then he had to start like one of the last games of the season. So they've done that before, Ronnie, where he was just on the bench as another piece. And I feel a little more, if I need a pinch hit at bat, I'd rather have Ronnie up there than Jared Young. Ronnie actually plays a little more positions than Young. I mean, Young is like first base and corner outfield. But with Ronnie, you talk about left side of the infield plus a switch hitter, so that alone is more versatility. I know he's struggling from the right side, but overall, I mean, if you talk about like best players, it's not the construction, but I think as far as fit and where they are in the season, I get it, but I think it's more so like if it's going from Tauchman to Jared Young, you might have wanted to get a couple more bats on minor league deals if that's what you're gonna have to turn to if something were to happen.
Maybe. I think in this circumstance, and I don't know if this is correct, I saw a report, Max, you could definitely confirm this for me. Carlos Mendoza said that he wants MJ Melendez to get more AAA ABs because he kind of lost a little bit of time during the WBC. So again, Frank, it's your team Puerto Rico, your guys.
Which
it's their fault.
Concern, but again, it's like if you're like, we got to protect Melendez from the WBC, it's like yikes. I mean,
I mean, he didn't really play that much in the WBC. He didn't. Like, he was kind of a bench piece. Yeah,
Elliot Ramos was out there.
He looked pretty good before he got there. Like
he did. I mean, like I said, I like what I saw when he was playing for the Mets in spring training games. He was getting a little bit more of full-time reps. I mean, he showed some promise, but I mean, overall, I wasn't had big expectations for him or anything like that. But I just think with Jared Young, we've kind of seen this before. Same thing with Richard Lovely. If we want to flip it to him, it's like we've seen these guys in Mets uniforms. We kind of know what to expect. I'm not. I don't. like anticipated to do something drastically different than last season. But overall, I understand what they're doing. I think for Lovelady, the fact that he's left-handed, he's really got that going for him. And the way I see it is that, like, in an ideal scenario, once Minter's back, he's a lefty. So it's just a hopeful one-for-one swap.
Obviously.
Like,
and that's the placeholder we're talking about.
Take Lovelady out, put Minter there, and we're good to go.
Yeah, that's the placeholder I think we're talking about from the left side. You know, like one of those things of, you know, where it comes to like, you know, yes, he's not great and he has not been great as a Met. And I think it's all really comes to a point of like, how did this guy get back here? He was with the Nationals and all of a sudden he's back here like in the last week of spring training. And now he's on the opening day roster. And it's kind of funny in that way. It's one of those things where I think they're just kind of looking at it as like the second body that can throw left-handed. We're just going to toss him in there and he's going to be a long relief option. They also do have a piggyback piece with Sean Manaea, which is a different situation. And there's a whole thing with that. I think they're just kind of trying to get to like through the first month. If that's the impression that you're, you know, trying to get here where from the bullpen side, whether it's just, you know, trying to get AJ Minter back here and, you know, fully ramped up. And I think we all know that that's the placeholder right now. If we have Richard Lovelady here past like that mid-May threshold, then we're going to start asking some questions as like, does he have dirt on the organization? You know, like we're going to have to start becoming, you know, conspiracy theorists here. But either way, I mean, Max, is that the impression that you kind of get here with, you know, how they're forming up this roster? It's more of just kind of like placeholding before you get into the full swing and the, you know, the dog days of June, July, August, that type of thing where like I'm just so tired of putting out the discourse of like, well, there's this situation. Well, this is kind of what the hand they were dealt in these certain positions. And we all know that changes can be made. We've seen so many transactions be made by David Stearns over the first 2 years. So I've grown tired of it. I've grown tired of that whole conversation of, well, why is this guy here day one? He probably won't be here day two. Who knows?
Well, I think, you know, obviously I love talking about the roster discourse of who deserves to take the last spot or not. My Yankees followers that stuck around would probably remember that. But at the end of the day, these are the last spot on the bench and the last spot in the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there shouldn't be that much of a high profile discussion. And just to go back to the bench real fast, I think you have to kind of widen your lens when you're looking at the pick of Young, because if somebody gets hurt a month into the season, it would be a lot tougher to expect Mauricio to play at a high level after sitting on the bench for a month rather than continuing to develop and get everyday at bats. And same thing with if an outfielder got hit, it would be tough to ask Melendez after sitting on the bench for the first month when he really didn't have much of a spring, as you guys mentioned. I think he had 4 at bats in the WBC, so he left for several weeks and barely played for Puerto Rico. He did look good in a limited sample with the Mets, and obviously there's a huge upside with him. He's a former top 50 prospect with the Royals, but these last few years have not gone according to plan for him. I mean, there's more development for him to be had where he needs to play and put himself in a position to succeed. So I know it's not maybe the most glamorous, sexiest choice for today, but if you look at, because, you know, the front office is thinking of every possible scenario that they'll encounter, this is putting them in a better spot to handle, like I mentioned earlier, handle the inevitable adversity that they'll encounter down the road.
Yeah. Again, it's like we were saying, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You know, yes, we want to put the best players out there, but sometimes they're not available to give you those reps. And I think that that's like the basic point of like process of elimination. I think that if you were just going to be going off of like, okay, skill set, making the team a little bit more optimal, I probably would have been like, well, okay, between Young, Brujan, I wouldn't have chose either of them, and I would have went Christian Pache. That's what I would have went, because I think that probably would have helped a little bit. And like we said, they don't need an extra infielder, like Max, what you just said. So it made a little bit more sense for them to have 5 outfielders on the roster. We know that Jared Young can play the outfield, but we all know defensively, Pache takes the cake because he is one of the best defensive center fielders and has been in his time in the majors. You also can get some of that pinch running as well. And I also do believe that with Vidal Brujan, I wasn't seeing as much of a need to have him really on the roster because I feel like a lot of the aspects of his game, a lot of it had to do with his lower body and a lot of it had to do with his speed and that overall speed that, a lot of people say you can't teach. Over these last 2 seasons, his speed has not been great at all. And when you have that certain aspect to your game that seems to be the thing that overlaps a lot of these, overlaps a lot of the other skills that you have, I don't know. I would have, if you were looking for speed, I would have went to Christian Pache. If you were looking for something on the fly to replace Mike Tauchman as of right now, it would be Jared Young, unfortunately. And that's, how you look at it. Again, I'm not the biggest Jared Young guy. I think that at this point, this is a name that maybe you're not very familiar with, Max, but it's kind of like just like this DJ Stewart thing that, he was just here for a little bit. He popped off for a little bit. And then we were like, okay, we're tired of this. Let's move on. It's just not going to, branch out into like an everyday player, an everyday DH. But it was something that we were very desperate for when he was performing because of the other DHs that they were traded for the years prior of Daniel Vogelbach that did not work out here in certain aspects, and Darren Ruff, which was a complete disaster in the 2022 deadline that they ended up DFAing him the next spring training before that even happened, before they even gave him a chance. It was a disaster. We're not even gonna get into that because it's an entire different subject. But again, I'm not really here to completely complain about, the certain day one because of how David Stearns has been able to be proactive and he's made a lot of these different decisions when something isn't working out. If this was under the previous guy like Billy Epler, then I would be probably a little bit more upset because he showed a lot of stubbornness with a lot of his guys he wanted here, and he wanted to prove everyone right with a lot of these guys. And you can probably see why he does not have a job in baseball anymore. Either way, Douglas Barnes saying in the chat, saying Lovelady is the least of the Mets' concerns. They have the pitching depth to outlast the bad luck they had last year. Lovelady is just a blimp on the radar. And I do believe that, obviously. And they do even have guys with experience, guys who have done it before, even guys who did not even make the roster in Craig Kimbrell, your guy, Frank. They have expanded to the pitching depth of, they have a lot of guys who can be ready to go if they need be, that are in AAA in exchange for what we had 2 years ago of, do I say the name? Yohan Lopez? Do you want me to say it? Frank? No? Okay. Already did. Sorry. Anyways, as for spring training, I do want to revert a little bit back to it because we do want to recap this a little bit of what we saw because obviously, Max, you were there at spring training, so I want you to give a little bit of the insight. But there is a segment that we usually do on this show, occasionally where I put out like a top 5 list. My co-hosts, they rip it to shreds. People in the chat, they tell me, I'm stupid or dumb and, whatever. But I have a list of top 5 and bottom 5 spring performers. Obviously, these takes are not going to age. They're probably not going to be relevant tomorrow morning. But we're just going to put it out here to recap it the best way we can and just put it all out there. So I have a video that was pre-recorded so it doesn't drag on, of the top 5 spring performers and the bottom 5 spring performers, which I think Frank and I will get into because I don't want to waste so much of your time, Max, because, again, like we said, the negative discourse can go on forever in this fan base, and you'll definitely learn. But here are my top 5 spring performers, a little video that I put out here. So here it is. Starting off this top 5, we have Clay Holmes. Going into year 2 as a full-time starting pitcher, Holmes came into camp already ahead of most pitchers once again, due to pitching for Team USA in the 2026 World Baseball Classic. Holmes had one outing in the WBC and tossed 3 scoreless innings with 6 strikeouts in long relief against Great Britain, but the red, white, and blue returned Holmes to PSL after a lack of work that could be provided to him, and the 33-year-old right-hander continued to impress this spring. In Major League camp, Holmes has surrendered just 6 hits, 4 earned runs, striking out 27.7% of batters and walking just 6.4% across 12 and 2/3 innings pitched. Holmes has also displayed a jump in velocity from last season, sitting 94 to 95 and topping 96.8 miles an hour on his sinker, and utilizing his secondary pitches at a much higher clip. Could we see a year 2 starter leap from Holmes following a solid year 1? Only time will tell, but he's off to a great start. Number 4, Francisco Alvarez. Following back-to-back injury-riddled seasons that have included 3 separate hand surgeries, Alvarez came into camp hungry to regain his rookie form, and it has shown so far. In PSL, Alvarez has slashed .360, .414, .600 with a 160 weighted runs created plus in 29 plate appearances this spring. Is it a small sample size? Yes. However, his quality of contact has displayed its best in a long time, with 16 of his 19 batted ball events this spring being fly balls or line drives, and he has registered an average exit velocity of 93.8 miles an hour, which would top his career high from last year by 0.7 miles an hour. Although it's early and the key is consistency, Alvarez has displayed it all this spring. From great swing decisions, pitch selection, and displaying his patented light tower power that got him into the majors at such a young age. Now at age 24, we all know it's go time for Alvarez, and we've all been waiting to see it, because we all know what this kid is capable of. Number 3, AJ Ewing. As a former 4th-round pick by the Mets back in 2023, Ewing gave us all a taste of what's to come for the next wave of prospects that could make an impact at the major league level soon. With all tools on display, from his great contact ability, his sneaky power, game-shifting speed, plus defensive prowess in the outfield, and his well-converted outfield arm from being an infielder, this spring Ewing slashed .381, .423, .667 with a 170 weighted runs created plus across 26 plate appearances this spring, and has showed exactly why he jumped up the ranks in the Mets farm system following last season. Expected to begin the season in Double-A Binghamton, the 21-year-old has forced himself into being a potential piece in the Mets' future plans. As the compensation pick for former Mets ace Jacob deGrom, Ewing will likely not fill his shoes when it's all said and done, but so far he has done a phenomenal job in his own regard. Number 2, Kodai Senga. If there's anybody who needed this spring to go well, it was this guy. Following back-to-back tediously frustrating seasons, Senga came into camp with one goal: to stay healthy. Not only has he done just that, but he's looked more like his rookie self than ever, and then some. In PSL, Senga surrendered just 2 earned runs across 9.2 innings pitched, has struck out 31.4% of the batters he faced, and has walked just 1 batter all spring. He's been attacking the strike zone with the kitchen sink and pitching with more conviction, while his velocity has also shot back up, sitting 96 to 97 and topping 99 multiple times in each outing. His signature ghost fork has returned as well, registering a 41.2% whiff rate and a 52.6% chase rate. As one of the biggest X factors on the Mets 2026 roster, if Kodai Senga can regain form and stay on the field, the Mets rotation is going to be a force to be reckoned with this season. It's a big if, but Senga's talent was never the factor in question. And at number 1, Carson Benge. As his first-round pick 2 years ago, Mets president of baseball operations David Stearns made it clear that Benge would get a clear chance to make the opening day roster. Benge took the challenge and passed with flying colors. Although the power was not on display as much, Benge impressed in pretty much every other department, displaying his great contact ability in pitch selection, his plus base running, a pliable speed plus range in right field, and his patented strong arm as a former collegiate pitcher. Benge finished this spring slashing .366, .435, .439 with a 140 weighted runs created plus across 46 plate appearances, and also securing the starting job in right field to start the 2026 season. As a jack of all trades, master of none prospect, Benge will be joining a deep opening day Mets lineup with little to no pressure to set the world on fire offensively and develop as he gets more reps. With all 5 tools at his disposal, Benge's impact on an everyday basis is expected to be felt right away, which explains why the Mets are so high on this kid going forward. All right, so there is that top five. It's along the bottom for those of you who, couldn't follow along, or maybe you don't know English. I don't know. Number five, Clay Holmes. Number four, Francisco Alvarez. Number three, AJ Ewing. Number two, Kodai Senga. Number one, Carson Benge. And no, he's not at number one because he has an awesome first name. So Max, I'll go to you first. Obviously, there's only five spots here. There's plenty of performances that were fantastic throughout spring. You got to see it firsthand. I was actually there a few weeks ago. I got to see Kodai Senga's spring debut as well. So I was there during that week, during the WBC as that began. What would you, disagree with, agree with on this list? Listen, you can say anything to me. I will take it. Again, there's been plenty of stuff that's been said to me on a daily basis, and Frank can attest to that. So, what do you think of this top five that I have here of spring training performers?
I think it's a strong list. I like Alvarez being on there. I think he's crucial for the Mets this year, and being at that scrimmage that the Mets had on Monday before they broke camp, the home run that he hit off of Sean Manaea was a bomb, one of the furthest that I've seen this spring. I wish we had the StatCast data on it. I'm sure that the Mets did, but that wasn't, the inner squad wasn't on Baseball Savant that day. I felt like he hit really well all throughout the spring. Same thing with AJ Ewing. If I had to pick a non-Benge prospect, it would definitely be Ewing. I think maybe someone else you could put on here when it comes to prospects would be Ryan Lambert. We saw a lot of him.
That's a good one. Yeah.
The command is definitely still a question mark there, and I think that he'll benefit from a pretty extended runway of AAA reps to face those quad A hitters and start to hone in on that command and limit the walks. But the stuff is, I don't even think the word electric really encapsulates that right there, and that's a future high leverage reliever for the Mets for sure if he continues to take steps forward. Obviously Benge had an amazing spring. With Senga too, Senga deserves to be on there. It's funny coming from me because I didn't really watch him over the last couple of years. So I remember seeing the numbers and the narrative around his rookie season, and then he kind of just was off the radar for me these last couple of years. So the way that he pitched this spring just reminded me what I heard about him ahead of his rookie season and how he did in 23. Yeah. So man, the ceiling for the Mets as a club, if he has that kind of season, it's hard to really calculate how much that would mean for this club just because of the ace-like potential there. And there was one more guy I was going to mention. I think, maybe a Luis Robert Jr. could fit as a number 5, for instance, on a list.
Yeah.
Because I feel like just watching his live BP reps, it was just so much hard contact. And it also was striking to me how he handled the news that he was going to be held out of spring games early on. And the fact that, he is the starting center fielder, but I wouldn't expect him to play more than 145 this year. Maybe. Mm-hmm. It seems like they're going to give him a lot of rest, monitor how he's feeling, particularly in his lower body on a daily basis throughout the year. Because like with Senga, like with Alvarez, if Robert stays healthy and plays at that, peak White Sox form, the 2023 form where he was almost a 40 homer guy, one of the best outfielders in the league, it just lengthens what could already be a pretty strong high octane lineup. So those would be the names that I would throw in there. Mm-hmm. And if I remember any other ones, I'll chime back in. But I think it was a good list overall.
Thank you. Very, very, very nice. Frank, I know that you can be a little bit more critical, but I put your guy on there, so you can throw me a bone here. I don't know. No one mentioned the spring training legend himself, who I go back and forth with a lot on people in social media, Brett Beatty, who had a good spring. I decided we're gonna move forward here. We're gonna move forward. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this. We don't need to completely glorify it, but he did have a good spring. All right, everybody wants to hear it. I know Doug is in the comments here saying, talking about Swaggy C's secret crush on Beatty. Yes, okay, he did have a good spring. He always has a good spring. Let's see it fully translate to full-on consistency in the majors. Either way, Frank, I'll go to you on this one. What do you think of this top 5?
Yeah, I like it. There were definitely a lot of guys to pick from. Alvarez making it makes a ton of sense. I mean, like Max said, I mean, it just felt like a lot of times you kind of turn on, you open Twitter, like, oh, there's Alvarez. He just smoked something. And like I always say, like, you don't normally see those kind of videos from catchers. It's not often that you're like, oh, look at what this catcher just absolutely annihilated a baseball. Like, he just has, again, the potential that is just always very exciting. Obviously, Christian Pache is someone that you have to put in
Yeah.
consideration. I mean, the guy hit over
Yeah.
400
He was in there.
this spring.
Yeah.
He was a pleasant surprise for sure. I think some other guys that had some, overall some final solid numbers. Bo Bichette, I mean, he hit
Bichette was good,
333.
yeah.
You had Polanco. He definitely got a few things done as well. A little bit limited playing time. They kind of took it easy with him as well, as far as like getting him into the games. So I mean, Mike Talkman definitely showed us some things a little bit to start off. So he definitely been in consideration. So I think overall, but I mean, if we're counting WBC, Huskar Brosbon has to be under consideration.
Sure.
I mean, he had some awesome outings. And same goes for Nolan. I mean, what, they trusted Nolan in that championship game. So I know it didn't go the way USA had hoped for, but I think when you combine spring training and WBC, because like those guys were supposed to be in spring training, but they had to do something else. And they still showed some really good performances against high-level competition, because I think that's something to consider, is that when we talk about some of these other prospects, they are facing like second-string guys, third-string guys in some instances. So I feel like with the WBC, we know there's like high pressure there. So I think that those guys should also at least be mentioned as like honorable mentions. But overall, I mean, there's also others. And Clay Holmes too. I mean, Clay Holmes was also had his time in the WBC as well. I feel like AJ Ewing was a really pleasant surprise, because he's someone that we don't expect to have like the big league impact right away, but he's one of those guys, like you said, just this multiple tool prospect where it's like he was doing something, like whether he was stealing a base,
he was everywhere,
he was making a catch
everywhere.
in the outfield, he was putting in the gaps, like it's like AJ Ewing was just everywhere. Like you turn the game and you just see him doing something at all different times. So I mean, if you have him and Carson Benge in your outfield, or platooning or whatever it is, like you just always have guys that are doing something productive for your team, doing something valuable. And like we said, in the 162, you need that. Cost controllable young players, very important, especially if we're going to CBA, new salaries and things like that, floors, caps. You're going to need your young pieces to really be contributors for you, because these big contracts, you're only going to be able to have so many. You're going to be very selective with who you want to pay the big money. And on that, you're going to need some guys at a low cost producing for you.
Well, I mean, listen, I think that those are all good criticisms, or whatever we're calling them. And like we said, these opinions are probably not even going to matter in the morning when the audio comes out of this episode. Like that's literally it, when it's not going to, because we have opening day that'll be played tomorrow, first pitch 1:15. So again, it's just a way to recap it the best way that we know how. Some comments here. Muttley in love saying your Carson face on the screen is not wearing a knit hat. What gives, Carson? Listen, I tried with the beanie for the caricature. I tried, okay? But it always just looked like way too big for my face. It looked like I was wearing, like a different type of headgear that didn't really make any sense. But I just had to go with the Mets hat there. So it's whatever. You do what you can. But either way, Max, I'm pretty sure you kind of have to dip out here. So if there's anything that you want to, plug, put out there that you've been working on. Obviously, you're just joining the Mets beat this year, so let everybody know where they can find you. Your links are also all in the description, so make sure to go follow him. But Max, you've done a fantastic job during spring training. The coverage has been awesome. I always see them, I always see them on the timeline. I'm always checking Twitter, obviously, with us being in Mets media. The work has been fantastic. So I advise you to keep it up. You're doing a fantastic job in your first year.
Well, that's very nice of you. I appreciate that. No, it's been a blast so far. I'm really enjoying it. I think if you like the analysis, definitely follow along on Twitter, which you see here at Max Goodman. And I'm new to the YouTube space. With speaking of the Mets as our NJ.com channel, we're trying to make it as much of a one-stop shop for Mets content as possible. Obviously, I know there are a lot of Mets YouTube channels out there, but it's really just a way to hear from someone who's on the beat, and it's kind of just no bells and whistles, just me talking about the team and my takeaways and insight throughout the season. So would mean the world if you out there listening would subscribe. I think it would be worth your time. And yeah, no, thanks for having me on, and I'm looking forward to this season.
Absolutely. Frank, is there anything else you want to say? Is your last words to Max? Say hi. I don't know. Maybe a virtual
Hi,
handshake,
Max.
something like that.
Thank you for joining, and good luck this season. Hopefully, Met fans don't drive you too crazy in your mentions. So I think for your sake, I hope they have a good year. This way, you won't have as much complaining, and you won't just kind of log on and be like, oh, maybe I need to close this for the day, because in the summertime it could get a little.
It can
rough.
get intense. Yeah, definitely. On their behalf, we apologize for if there's anything that you do see from Mets social media. It can get a little hectic. Let's just say that. But
I've got thick skin from the Yankees.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't know. I mean, it's a different ball game, because the Yankees.
Mets fans are hungry. They're restless.
Hungry,
they're
man.
relentless.
Yes.
They won't. I mean, it's a cutthroat community. Let's just say that. It's fun when they're winning, but when they are not, which is a lot, it gets crazy. So we'll see. Maybe if I see anybody giving you a rough time constantly, maybe I'll hop in there, because people love me. But anyways, thank you, Max, for joining us, obviously. And like we said, his links are in the description. But either way, we're going to continue on with the show. Max is going to get out of here. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Enjoy opening day tomorrow, all right? I'll talk to you soon.
All right. You too. All right. So, like we said, Max, his links in the description. Follow him on Twitter, like we said. Max T. Goodman. Thank you to him for joining us again. And again, I think gave us some really, really good insight as to, what he saw out there in spring training, because I think it was very exciting to what we saw, especially, like we said, with the young players, a new team. So he's definitely coming into a space that is fresh and new. So I'm very excited to see what we see going forward. Like we said, with opening day around the corner, but like we said, with the positives to come the negatives as well. And I also have a bottom 5 spring performers as well video. But before I get into that, I do want to do a little bit of promo for something that is very, very big that is happening during this season, in case anybody did not see yet. And this is a reminder to tune in tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday afternoon, for watch-along and post-game coverage of the Mets versus Pirates series, hosted by the newest members of Mets Weekly. That's right. They are joining full-time, Evan and Matt. They've been on our show plenty of times before. 10 minutes before first pitch, barring any delay that is needed. Sometimes scheduling conflicts with some things. It happens. And that is for live play-by-play commentary, banter, out-of-pocket jokes like you were seeing during the WBC if you were there during those streams, and maybe some special guests along the way. You never know. It all starts tomorrow at 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time, opening day, Mets versus Pirates. We hope to see you guys there. But either way, let's continue on with the other half of these top 5 or bottom 5, or I'm doing the number 1 on this list is the worst performer. So I'm just saying that it's not going to be, in reverse, even though it's bottom 5. We all get it, right? We get it. Like, so it's worst to best of the worst of the bad. English, cool. It's a cool language, isn't it? Anyways, let's move on to this bottom 5. So here you guys go of my bottom 5 spring training performers. We start the bottom 5 off with Ryan Clifford. With the future at first base unknown, Mets president of baseball operations David Stearns was singing praises for their 5th overall ranked prospect going into camp for his improvements over the past year on both sides of the ball. Unfortunately, we did not get to see much this spring. The 22-year-old left-handed slugger was 2 for 20 all spring, striking out 7 times and grounding into 2 double plays. Although he still showed his usual top 10% batted ball data with a 53.8% hard hit rate and a average exit velocity of 90.2, he really didn't make as much noise as he has in the past few spring campaigns. Clifford will be starting the 2026 season in AAA Syracuse, where he played 34 games in 2025. It is nothing to alarm anyone, but with a fantastic spring across the Mets prospect board from Carson Benge, A.J. Ewing, Jacob Reimer, and Chris Suaro, Clifford just wasn't one of them this time around. Number 4, David Peterson. Going into a 30-year-old season, Peterson had an extremely rough time this spring, missing bats and executing 2 strike counts. Although he was inducing ground balls at a near 70% clip, his command just was not sharp, as he surrendered 6 earned runs across 13 innings pitched, managing to not toss a 1-2-3 inning all spring. In addition to that, there seems to be a dip in velocity as well for Peterson so far. His fastball was averaging 90.8 in comparison to 92.4 miles an hour last year, and his sinker was averaging 89.8 miles an hour to 91.3 miles an hour last season. It could be something, it could be nothing, but Peterson has not looked sharp so far. Slated to pitch Game 2 of the regular season against Pittsburgh on Saturday, Peterson is still going to be called upon to provide innings from the back half of the rotation this year. Although there's plenty of options, it would be Peterson's best interest to give us his best, as he is set to become a free agent after the 2026 season. Number 3, Craig Kimbrell. Is it low-hanging fruit to criticize a minor league contract? Sure, but oh boy, how the mighty have fallen. As one of the best relievers of this generation with Hall of Fame consideration on the way, Kimbrell came into Mets camp with intentions to salvage the potential final years of his career. It has not gone well. In 6 spring appearances, Kimbrell has surrendered 4 earned runs, walked 5 batters, hit 2 of them, and like Peterson, did not toss a single 1-2-3 inning at PSL. It doesn't look as bad at face value, but when a once dominant closer is sitting 92 to 93 miles an hour on his fastball and can't command the zone to save his life, it's really hard to understand him being in the final consideration for the last bullpen spot as late as the second to last day of spring training. Although he won't be on the opening day roster to begin the season, Kimbrell stated that he will not be opting out of his contract and he will remain with the Mets organization for the time being in AAA Syracuse. He will be waiting for his name to be called, but I will not be. Craig, you've had an outstanding career, but Father Time, as we all know, is undefeated. Number 2, Sean Manaea. Following a lost 2025 season after signing a 3-year, $75 million contract to return to Queens, Manaea came into camp coming off of an oblique strain that sidelined him for months and a loose body injury in his left elbow that apparently did not require off-season surgery. Although Manaea said he feels healthy, his velocity drop has been extremely noticeable all spring, especially after experiencing a velocity drop last season in comparison to 2024. In his final spring line, Manaea tossed 9.2 innings pitched, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, and 9 strikeouts. Though nobody really knows how this is going to play out, the confidence in Manaea has not been perceived as high, as he will begin the 2026 season as a long relief option to piggyback off of short-length starts. Plenty of time to right the ship, but when you see a $22 million a year arm be relegated to long relief before Game 1 of the season, it's usually telling of the current circumstance. Definitely a situation to keep your eye on throughout the season. And at the very bottom, at number 1, Mark Vientos. After struggling mightily for a majority of 2025, following a breakout 2024 offensively, Vientos entered PSL with his future with the team in question. While out of minor league options and with a suboptimal skill set, it's either he hits or he is finished. This spring, not only did he not hit, but it was extra brutal, going a total 2 for 35 at the plate, grounding into 4 double plays, 3 of them with a runner at third, and still chasing pitches out of the zone at a 44.3% rate. Although his exit velocity is still qualifying at the top 10%, it's pretty evident how easily exposed Vientos has become offensively. While he does have incredibly natural power, as we all know, his swing decisions and pitch selection have been abysmal all spring. He did end it on a somewhat high note, homering in his final spring game, but it really is hard to give out a sigh of relief. It's only a matter of time until Vientos becomes a major hole on the Mets' active roster. We know the guy can hit, but as farther and farther away we get from his 2024 campaign, it's hard to maintain hope that he can bounce back to what we all know he's capable of. Well, anyways, there's your bottom 5 right there. Frank, again, I had to even it out. I put Alvarez in your top 5, but I had to put your guy Kimbrell in there because that was brutal to watch. Listen, I think we all know
Hall
it.
of Famer.
Yeah, I think we all know the current situation of his career at this current point. He's still with the organization, though, so maybe he does pitch. Maybe he relates, to a point where, he's replacing Richard Lovelady, I don't know.
It was between like him, Hudson, and Lovelady for the last spot.
Yeah.
So
Hudson, Hudson, how much did he even pitch? Like,
he
I
had
don't
some,
think
he
he
had
pitched.
some rough outings. He didn't pitch much,
He
but
did,
like
yeah.
he didn't have the greatest spring.
Yeah. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
Lovelady, like you said, when it came to the Mets, he didn't have long to be here because, like I said, he got to them late. But overall, I
Yeah.
mean, it was not pretty for Hudson.
Not
You
pretty.
get those in, like,
But this
five-
bottom five
you
altogether,
get 6
I
runs.
mean, pretty self-explanatory, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and the order that you put them in too. I feel like when you're factoring in expectations, is that like Vientos, I want him to be like I wanted him to be a DH going into the season with the personnel that they have, but based off performance, I can't pencil him in. I can't count on him because I mean, what have I seen that gives me hope? I mean, lately I really just haven't seen much. And the same goes for Manaea. I feel like what we've seen from McLean and Peralta and some of these other guys is that the expectations for Manaea this year are not as high as they were in the past. And at this point, it's like, I just want him to get through the year healthy. And I mentioned on the last episode, but it's like, if he has to do, and they mentioned the piggybacking thing, which is kind of what I was alluding to, is he struggled to work deep into games. It just felt like the longer the game went on, the worse he was. And at this point, you're just trying to get some kind of value. It's just, what positions can I put my guys in so that they can find some form of success? If for Manaea that means only pitching a few innings at a time, then it's something that they do have to consider because it's just like, well, how do you just eat the innings? Because you have to find a way to get through the 162. And how can I get through the most innings while giving up the least amount of runs? Because, like we said, it seems like such a simple concept, but hard said than done. But score more runs than the other team. So how can I have Manaea help me achieve that goal? You have to put him in situations that allows him to be at his best. And if for now is the piggybacking thing until he's like fully, worked up and ready to go, then I'm with that. I like that you, and I know you personally, that you would not let a outing like the one we had the 4 perfect innings kind of blind you and be like, oh, well, I mean, the results were so good, I have to put him better on the list. But we know that there's different ways to get 4 perfect innings. Like for Manaea, if he gives you 4 perfect innings throwing 88 miles an hour.
And that was also against a Marlins team that wasn't even at full strength of like any of their opening day starters in it. So it's like
I feel like if you see Manaea at 88 going 4 scoreless compared to Kodai Senga throwing 99 and going 4 scoreless, that not all 4 scoreless are the same. And that's what we talked about as the season's about to begin. But last year when the Mets got that huge start in April and they were winning series and they were in first place and 2-1, 1-0. I mean 3-2, like those final scores. And we're like, oh, but the results are so good. The Mets are first place team, they have a great record. But we're saying the way they're getting these wins is concerning. And it's like for Manaea, the way he got those 4 scoreless is concerning. So even though he had some good performances, technically, as far as the results, it's the way he got is what makes him overall not a great spring training performer.
Yeah. I mean, Douglas Barnes saying Peterson, question mark, Carson hates him, so I guess that was an obvious worse. I just don't think he will look sharp at all. But to be honest, I really will say I don't really have much concern that he won't give us back end. Listen, I've kind of mellowed on Peterson recently. I think I have. I think that he's proven that he can be a back end piece to this rotation. He was an all-star, and that stays forever on your baseball reference page. So again, you just never know. But this is this is a big year for Peterson. It definitely is. And he is going to have to show that he can not burn out towards that final stretch of the season. I think when it came to with Peterson originally was overall competitive pitches. And I think that, again, a lot of that factored into this hip surgery that we did not know he had. Or needed whatsoever. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and then he gets this procedure. He comes back, and he was great. So if that was the key to being the factor as to why I was so hard on David Peterson, it's possible. But we also have seen him kind of burn out towards the end of the year as well when he hits a certain wall. So We'll see what happens. Not a certain pitcher that I would commit to long term, but he's done better than what, again, I will admit, he has done better than what I was perceiving him as like 2 or 3 years ago. Like, he's done a lot better than that. I wanted him in Korea. Yes. Yeah. Korea. Absolutely. Yeah. So Doug is saying Peterson faced his most innings last year. He will be light years better than Minaya this year. We'll see. They're both on this list. We'll see. I have no clue what's going to happen here. But again, if he can give you those innings, he can give you those quality innings. And if at some point he does burn out, you have other options now. You have in-house options that maybe could be major league pieces in comparison to last year, where your depth was, like we usually talk about, Tyler McGill and maybe a little bit of a spot start,
bankers and all kinds of things.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a spot start from Julio Teheran, who has not shown his peak in like 5 years. So it's a lot different as of right now in that situation. Mets have a huge conglomerate of pitchers as of right now. A little bit of a update right now from the opening night game. It looks like Logan Webb is getting destroyed.
Yankees in the second inning.
5-0 Yankees. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Unreal. So the Yankees in San Francisco. Maybe we also add, I thought there was actually in Yankee Stadium because it was an 8:00 game, because usually when you see like the primetime games in San Francisco, but I guess it was in San Francisco all along. What the hell do I know? But hey, whatever. Yankees off to a quite a start, and it's only in the second inning, and that game has been on for an hour already. So that's
faster games.
Wow. Yeah, faster.
I don't know, I'm guessing maybe Netflix is doing longer commercial breaks. Maybe
probably
it's their first
possibly.
game,
even though there's not on Netflix shows, there's no commercials on there. But I guess that they're doing it there.
Oh, no. Oh, they do.
Whatever.
Oh, trust me. Listen, I mean, real quick, as someone who watches Monday Night Raw, there is commercials on Netflix. Trust me. Okay, so, like,
yeah,
they'll
I know they've
find
done
a way to
quite
get it in
big,
there. I don't know. Maybe Netflix Premium people could, like, see them in the dugouts and stuff. I don't know. I mean, listen, we've all known the budget over here, so I wouldn't know anything about that. But overall, they'll find a way. And that's how it is. Like,
game started kind of late.
It's like...
Okay.
That's a good point. All the introductions and the
okay.
They definitely had some of that.
Yeah, and that's what I don't like about primetime games, because they said this is going to be
this game starts at 8. It's really like
start, and then it starts at 8:40 because of the opening day festivities, where we have to congratulate everyone for showing up. You know,
that's like the Mets tomorrow. They're on Peacock. So you had the Yankees on Netflix day 1. They got the Mets on Peacock day 2. It's like, hey, what a way to grow the game. Make sure and bad enough. I mean, while we're on the topic, LBTV and their local blackouts. It's like, how do we watch this? Like, how do you watch the Mets if you don't have like a cable box or something on the TV?
Twitter highlights. That's it.
That's it. Like, watch on YouTube,
and that's another reason to watch for commentary here.
Yeah,
you can do the watch along with Evan and Matt, like you said. I'm going to promo it once again tomorrow at 1 p.m. starting 10 minutes before first pitch, or whenever first pitch is going to be on for that prime time or whatever. I'm sure it's not going to be, what is it?
1 o'clock.
The 1:15 or whatever it's supposed to be. I'm sure it'll be 1:40, 1:45. I don't know. Someone's going to go out there streaking or something. Who knows? I have no clue. But either way, let's get into the final spring training version of everyone's favorite segment, that being Studs and Duds. Now, I already did my lists for everything, so I'm going to stay out of it for my personal pick. Frank, I'll just swing it over to you. We'll put over the conversation of guys. Maybe if you want to go throughout the entire spring, we already talked about pretty much most of them. So if there's anybody you want to just, visibly shout out again.
Haven't really talked about yet. I feel like we've covered a lot of them. I think Austin Warren is someone that is worth noting. I feel like he's a contributor that, like we said, as they used so many pitchers last year. It was almost like 50 pitchers that they used last year. Just a ridiculous number. You're going to see Austin Warren at some point this season, and probably pretty soon, if I had to guess. So
And I'm
I like
down
what
for that because he pitched pretty well for us.
Yeah. So I like what he showed in spring training. So I feel like he's someone you're going to see. So that definitely was encouraging. So he's someone that we haven't mentioned yet. So I think it's worth throwing him in there.
Yeah. Duds as well.
I mean, as far as the duds, I'm trying to think of someone who we have a little bit of expectations for, because I mean there were some guys who, like, you kind of know had no business really being here. I think Justin Hageman, he definitely had some rough outings. Susceptible to the long ball, gave up a couple home runs. He's someone that is on the 40 man, right? I mean, you showed him he's gonna have his injuries.
Has a cracked rib, so he will.
Yeah, he's got a cracked rib, but I mean, even when his rib was not cracked, he wasn't doing too good. So
get a better rib, man. What the hell?
Yeah, so I think overall it was not a great spring for him. So that is someone that, again, we're looking for pitching depth, but I mean, it wasn't a good spring for him.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we should also, the one guy we didn't get to talk about is Luis Garcia on the good side. He had a solid spring, and he made the opening day roster. I mean, we talked about it.
Yeah.
He's almost as old as me, but he still made the cut.
Yeah, I mean, listen, reliever primes, extend, pitcher,
that's true.
It happens, because you still see Craig Kimbrell out there at his
my guy Chris
age.
Martin, he's been solid at an older age for a while now.
I mean, some teams are still looking to have interest in employing guys like Rich Hill. There's some people.
David Robertson, I mean, his career went on very long too. I mean, he wasn't as great, but there's a lot of relievers that definitely. Yeah, you could,
and that's why reliever age is something that I don't take into account, because I'm like, sometimes you find it, sometimes you don't. Reliever, age will, father time will always catch up, and sometimes you start to hear trends, but you always need relievers, you always need those types of pitchers and everything, and that's basically it.
And speaking of relievers, Weaver and Williams were both solid. I mean, they didn't have anything too crazy going on where you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Same goes for Brooks Raley. I mean, he only had a few innings, but he still looked pretty good in those outings. So, I mean, those are guys that are going to need to be the back end of the bullpen. I mean, those are going to be the ones they're counting on the most. So it's nice to see that they had a good spring as well. Yeah. Especially two of those guys are new faces.
And it's good, the fact that we were talking about a lot of great spring performances. Sometimes we're like, oh, well, they came in here and they're just getting their reps in. Like, I remember last year's spring training, and obviously this is just relevant as of right now, they didn't hit at all. Like, I don't think they scored. I'm pretty sure they had, like...
played well, though.
Beatty played well. Beatty was amazing. Beatty's Captain Grapefruit, so that's whatever. But Juan Soto was good because he's Juan Soto. And then everybody else just like... Yeah, man. We're just here for the fun. We're flipping water bottles in the dugout. That's it. And then it kind of carried over into the regular season where they didn't seem like they were hitting at all. So, maybe that changes. I don't know. You just feel with the vibes. It's different vibes right now. There's a different clubhouse.
Yeah, vibes are important. Soto and Lindor, different circumstances, but Soto did not have a great spring training. Even in WC, he had some calls that went against him in some big games, but I thought we would have seen just a smidge more of him.
Yeah, I think we should cut him. Probably. I mean, it makes sense, right? Either way, some of the outgoing transactions, all the news, get into the rapid fire stories real quick. Going into the season tomorrow, Hayden Sanger was optioned down to AAA, like we already talked about. He caught 33 games for the Mets last season. You possibly could see him next year if there is an injury. This year, if there is an injury, who knows? Speaking of other catchers, Austin Barnes was released amid missing the MLB roster, which was kind of expected. He posted a 136 weighted runs created plus during spring training in PSL. He signed a minor league deal with the Mets last month. Craig Kimbrell, like we already said, will remain with the Mets organization after being left off the 2026 opening day roster. And of course, we signed a minor league deal with the Mets last month. Some prospect news of some locations for these guys to start off 2026. Infield prospect Mitch Voigt, who was their first-round pick last year, and their third-round pick last year, Antonio Jimenez, in that same draft. Both of them will be starting off in High A Brooklyn. Eli Serrano, who was a fourth-round pick in 2024, who is someone apparently to keep your eye out for, a potential breakout, a possible helium breakout this year. Posted a 113 weighted runs created plus for High A Brooklyn. He will be starting off in Double A Binghamton. And then you also have Nick Morabito, who is on the 40-man roster at this current moment. He was protected in the Rule 5 draft. Posted a 120 weighted runs created plus for Double A Binghamton last season. He will be starting 2026 in Triple A Syracuse, former second-round pick in 2022, listed as the number 13 ranked prospect via Pipeline. Also, Dan Hammer, fantastic name. He will start off in AAA Syracuse. He signed on a minor league deal earlier this month. Former 13th round pick by the Orioles back in 2019. And then also Alejandro Urias. He signed a minor league contract. He was assigned to Dominican Summer League. Mets Orange apparently is someone who they are very, very high on for a lot of these young pitchers in pitch calling. So that's what I've heard. I don't know. And then some other stuff as well. Opening day transactions to finish off the opening day roster. Vidal Brujan, like we said, Brian Hudson, catcher Ben Rortvedt were all designated for assignment. The final spring training roster cuts for 2026. AJ Minter was placed on the 15-day injured list, as we all expected, recovering from lat surgery. And then Richard Lovelady and Jared Young, like we said, claimed the final two opening day spots. Notice how I said opening day. You know, it could change at any point. And then also some other news as well. The Mets will be wearing a Davey uniform patch during the 2026 season in honor of the late Davey Johnson, who passed away in September of last year. He was, of course, the manager of the infamous 1986 World Champion Mets, the last World Series title that this franchise had, following his 13-year career as well from 1965 to 1978 in the MLB. He's a pretty good player in his day, along with being a very good manager with the Orioles, Braves, Phillies, and Cubs. So as for some other stuff that I can add in just for some minor league news, you have Hoss Brewer and Brett Banks, who both had breakout seasons in the minor leagues. They will be starting off in Double A Binghamton this year as well. That's another detail there. Either way, opening day tomorrow, baseball that counts is going to be played. And we can preview it now and talk as to what we think going into the pregame jitters of Game 1. And let's preview it right now. We got some new graphics here. So it's a little bit different of a format here, and it's nice and shiny, so I hope everybody enjoys. Either way, Game 1, Freddie Peralta will make his Mets debut on opening day. He will face the reigning Cy Young Award winner, Paul Skeens. First pitch is tomorrow at 1:15 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock or on NBC, whichever one is available to you. And like we said, these types of broadcasts give us Gary, Keith, and Ron. That's all we really prefer, obviously. Game 2, 30-year-old left-hander David Peterson will get the start for Game 2. He'll face the 29-year-old right-hander Mitch Keller. First pitch is 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY. And for the series finale, Mets #1 prospect Nolan McLean will make his season debut. He'll face the 27-year-old right-hander Carmen Mulchinski. That's the pronunciation I got on Wikipedia. Hopefully that's correct. First pitch is 1:40 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY as well. So obviously, the first 3 games, like I said, the opening day jitters. What is this team going to be? Who knows? But we will see what we obviously have in store. Plenty to look out for. We all know Paul Skeens, that guy's pretty good. We know how good he is. I'm pretty sure when I said that last time about Paul
McNeil,
Skeens,
the home run?
No. It was somebody in our comment section got pissed off at us. They were like we wouldn't know that. So I'm going to say it again. Paul Skeens, if you don't know, he's pretty good. That one's for you. I don't remember who you were, but that one's for you. Either way, Paul Skeens versus Freddie Peralta, your guy, Frank. Some guys to look out for in this series. We'll have plenty of coverage, obviously, from Evan and Matt as well throughout these all watch-along streams. But, plenty to look forward to. And like we said, different coverage, of course, after every single series. We will have a podcast episode, which is typically twice a week. So either way, Frank, what are you looking at going into this first series of 2026 baseball? 2026. How's that a real year? How's that a real year?
Just going based off the pitching matchups, I mean, you saw 2025 All-Star Freddie Peralta. You saw 2025 All-Star David Pearson. And, let me go on a limb here, maybe 2026 All-Star Nolan McLean as your 3 for the Mets. So, I mean, not too bad overall. And I feel like with Keller in Game 2, we've seen the Mets have some struggles against him in the past. He's had like some really nice, but I feel like you said for a lot of pitchers, they'll have like these amazing games against the Mets. So it's not the easiest matchup, but overall, the Pirates, they've been rough for the past few years. They didn't do anything crazy this past offseason. They didn't do anything crazy the offseason before that, or they're the Pirates. Like they are, I hate to say it, but they're one of the problems with baseball. I mean, they are one of these teams that you do question, like, what is going on here? Because you have someone the caliber of Paul Skeens, Cy Young winner, best pitcher in the league. And what are you doing to surround him with talent? What are you doing to maximize that talent and try to have him compete for a World Series? Nothing. So you just have this guy rotting away these wonderful starts and excellent attributes and things like that for what? Because the team is not even really trying, because they don't make effort to make that team that much better. So if you're the Mets, and as we know, you've invested a ton of money, you're supposed to win these series. I don't care if it's beginning of the season, middle of the season, end of the season, it does not matter. You are expected to win this series. Even if you don't get the first game against Skeens because it's Paul Skeens, you got to find a way to, I mean, I don't say you have to, but you should find a way to win this series. I think that's just the way it goes. The Mets are, like we said, relatively healthy, knock on wood, going into opening day. I mean, I feel like, the lineup, we're going to see a lot of new faces. We'll see how that goes. I mean, we're going to see Jorge Polanco at first base, maybe. I think the one thing that I wanted to talk about that we didn't mention yet is I can't remember who posted it, but like a projected potential opening day lineup that had Brett Beatty at DH and Bo Bichette at third base, which is something I strongly disagree with. I feel like, why would you put an out-of-position guy at third base and have someone... Brett Beatty's not an amazing third baseman, but he's a solid third baseman. Why would you have a solid third baseman at DH and a out-of-position guy starting over him? And that one I don't get, especially considering Bo Bichette's injury history and the importance of wanting to keep him healthy throughout the entirety of the season. If Beatty's going to be in the lineup and Benge is in the outfield, I feel you should just have Beatty play third and have a better chance of keeping Bichette healthy the entire season, and you'd be able to get more games out of him. So, and if you have Beatty at third, it's easier to move him around in the game if you needed to. Like if you had to put Beatty at second or the outfield, it's much easier to move the guy from third base than to take him out of DH, because then you put the pitcher spot into the lineup. So for me, I don't know if the Mets are going to do that, but if they were, I don't understand that. I don't get why you would DH Beatty and have Bichette at third. That makes no sense.
I want to keep Beatty out of the outfield. That's what I want. If they want to put him at second, they want to put him at third, that's
and if
fine.
You have Benge, Robert, and Soto, I mean, he really shouldn't.
Exactly.
He shouldn't be in the outfield.
Yeah, and you even have Jared Young, who could play the corner as well.
And Tyrone Taylor is also going to spend some time in the outfield, especially if Robert, like Max had mentioned earlier in the show, that they might, not be playing him too many games in a week. If you have a few days in a row, maybe he gets one of them off. You put Taylor in center for a day. So he, again, it's not going to be Beatty. It's not going to be Young. Like if anything, Taylor would be that next man up who would be in the outfield.
Yeah, I definitely want them to go to a circumstance as to where they can have another center fielder because of Roberts' obvious, injury history that we all know. There's injury concern. There's a possibility that, he plays only 120 games this year. It's possible, definitely. And that's probably a best case scenario with how we've seen with his injury history. If you get anything more than that, like I say with some of these players, gravy. Either way, let me just say, the last time we faced the Pirates, and this is a completely different team, and it's out of context, but it's a detail that I want to put out there. Yes, the Pirates are not, they are definitely in that bottom tier of players. Is it possible that this team is not the best? We know that they added Marcell Ozuna. What the fuck is he still doing in this league? Who knows? Ryan O'Hearn was added. That's a good free agent add. We'll see how it bodes well in the Pirates culture. But I think that they made a little bit more of an effort than we expected, but still not to the standard that you should be as a Major League Baseball team. Bob Nutting, just sell the goddamn team already. But like I said, last time the Mets played the Pittsburgh Pirates, it was in Pittsburgh, a place that we don't really do well. And we were, in those 3 games, we were outscored 30-4. Let's do a little bit better than that. How about that? Let's do something better than that. Let's set our sights on something a little bit small with, the start of this season. How about that? Let's do a lot better than that. I remember, I think there was like one rain delay game that like Paul Blackburn got roughed up, and it was a mess, a complete mess.
Paul Blackburn, what a legend.
Frankie Montas got completely destroyed. Oh God, what a well, God.
And you wonder why those guys aren't with the organization this year.
Yeah, and they're not. Exactly. There's probably a main reason as to why. And this was in June. So that was kind of right at the Kodai Senga injury.
That was
the
like
turning point.
Yeah. That was when they were going on that fall.
Yeah. That was the last time that it happened. It always just seems like, in Pittsburgh, they always seem to be struggling a lot. I don't get it. But we're playing at Citi Field, so maybe that'll help. I actually got to see last year Mets versus Pirates at Citi Field. Got to see Harrison Bader. Or no, that was 2 years ago. Harrison Bader's homer. I asked him to homer for you, Frank, and he did it. I said, I have this, a charity case that I work with in Frank. He's very, very poor. He's homeless, and he wants you to homer for him, and he did that. And I think that was like part of like a 9-game winning streak that they went on before Alvarez got hurt and everything shifted to, Jorge Lopez throwing his glove into the crowd. And then there was another shift and it was a roller coaster, but everybody wanted to do that again, right? Anyways, as for this one, like we said, Paul Skeens, arguably the best pitcher in all of the National League. I think we can all say, if you put Tarek Skubal there because he's done it a little bit longer.
Well, you said
sure.
National League, so...
National League, but
has that.
True, but for now, you never know. He could be a Dodger. Anyways, we'll see what happens with that. Down the line, we're just waiting. We're floating at this current moment. But like we said, O'Neal Cruz from the left side, we all know how talented he is. Could this be the breakout from him? Who knows? But we all know there's swing and miss in that game. And also against lefties, David Peterson, I'm looking to you. I'm pretty sure he carved up O'Neal Cruz.
Have against the Pirates, was it the Adcock game where the Pirates ran out of fireworks or whatever?
Yeah.
Kept hitting home runs. That was also Pittsburgh,
Adcock
right?
gave up like 4 home runs in one outing, but they had to let him eat it. Yeah.
Yes.
I remember that game specifically because I remember your reaction to the Mets Frankly Post games. You were livid. You wanted, and I think I was in like a hotel when that happened.
Oh no!
And my parents who I was with in that hotel, they were like, "What the hell is all that screaming about?" I was like, "Yeah, that's just Frank. That's just Frank. He's pissed off." But yeah, they also made that trade for Brandon Lau, who we all know is a good power bat, but we all know he's got his faults as well. I'd say the top of this lineup is somewhat respectable.
Stuff. They did things, but I mean,
they did things.
Not enough to make.
Let's
not
just
enough
say
to be
that.
A playoff.
Former Met draft pick back in 2019, Jake Mangum, who's carved out a decent career for himself with Tampa Bay, is on their bench as well. We all know they have the former number 1 overall pick Henry Davis, who's been a massive disappointment. Like we said, they're top of their rotation. Skeens, Keller, and Malchinski. Sure, if I'm saying that correctly. We're not going to see Braxton Ashcraft or Bubba Chandler, who is definitely one of the top pitching prospects out there. They have a decent bullpen, but they also have some holes, obviously. Dennis Santana, former Met, coming off of a really good year. And I'm pretty sure he was so good that the Dominican Republic team put him on. Like, he was in their player pool, and then they had an injury, and they put him on there. Gregory Soto, another guy part of the Dominican team. Shell the shit out of him, please. I hate him. They have Justin Lawrence, high potential reliever from Colorado. They also have Mason Montgomery, who I'm pretty sure has been in the league for a little bit. Came up a little young, or am I thinking of a different Montgomery? I have no idea. Maybe I'm thinking of Mike Montgomery. He
You
was
could
with
be
the
thinking
Mets
Mike. Yeah,
for a second.
yeah, Mike was.
Yep.
Mike was with the
Never
Mets,
mind.
yeah.
Excuse what I just said. Yohan Ramirez, former Met, as well in their bullpen. They have Hunter Barco, who is a lefty. I think he's a hard-throwing lefty. And then they also have Jose Urquidy as well, who, a good career with the Astros. And then he obviously first year without that organization. We're not going to see Jared Jones because he is on the shelf. And that's pretty much it, I think. We'll see how all of that, does. And of course, with a donut on the side, because, donuts are apparently the topic of discussion with our watch-alongs. Yeah. But we'll see what happens going forward for this series. Of course, we'll get to see our first taste. Obviously, like the players to watch. I'm going to put out, not really because of I expect him to be amazing, but we'll see how Francisco Lindor looks, where he's at because of that surgery that he just underwent. He's back ahead of schedule. We all know about the pain tolerance. We already talked about that earlier. Definitely looking out for that. And then, of course, the kid, Carson Benge. I mean, a fantastic spring, obviously. I'm personally not expecting him to set the world on fire with the bat because I still think that there's things that he still needs to learn at the major league level. And hopefully we have coaches that can apply it this time and help him through that. And also with him batting ninth, we just want to see the player that he is overall. He does not have to be a world beater. He needs to be the 8th best hitter in this lineup, possibly the 10th best hitter on the whole roster, maybe, right? So he's not in a high-pressure situation, even though it's a high-pressure environment in New York. But we'll see. But congratulations to Carson Benge, by the way, because, again, 2 years ago, the guy gets drafted, has an amazing year. And didn't do much in AAA, but David Stearns put his stamp on him, and he said, this kid can be ready. We are going to give him the opportunity to make it on the opening day roster, and he got there. So, congratulations to him, and I hope that we get to see the fantastic five-tool potential from this kid who, again, likely has a bright future ahead of him with what we have seen in such little sample in the minor leagues and also in spring training as well. And then one more guy to look out for. I'm going to point it out. Like I said, I'm going to put it on Devin Williams here, okay? The reason why I'm going to say that is because obviously the high-pressure situation in New York, we all know that there's a little different of a factor right now. He comes over from the New York experience in the Bronx, obviously. He's filling some big shoes, let's just say, in that closer role. We can't say that he's not. We'll see how it bodes well, and maybe they get to a certain closing situation for him, and we'll see how he does in those, see if he passes with flying colors. We'll see if there's any issue whatsoever. But I do think that the bullpen, again, is going to be something to look out for, especially in the days where you don't have, especially in the part of the season where you don't have a guy like AJ Minter to deepen it a little bit more. And also you can throw Shamanai out there because the role right now is up in the air for him. Like he's kind of like a mop-up, long relief. We're going to keep stretched out. I have no idea what we're going to be doing with him, but he had a spring that merits that because it's all up in the air. It's floating. Who knows at all? Frank, if there's anybody else that you want to add from both sides, obviously, going into this series, but, we've got to play baseball,
Right. We've
got to play it.
Any of the new faces are the ones I'm going to be watching most because I think with some of these guys, we know what to expect a little bit since we've seen them in Met uniforms. But Luis Robert, like I said, he's one of those guys who, even if the bat isn't there in a particular series, can he find other ways to still help you win ball games? Whether that's doing something in the field or if he finds other ways to get on base and use his speed to his advantage, that would be nice to see. Obviously, if Jorge Polanco is starting at first base, how does that go? Because I mean, it's real
We'll see.
different when you're practicing little drills here and there at a slow pace compared to a double play where the throws aren't going to be necessarily perfect. There's going to be some pressure, and can you make that quick reaction or have the right decision making in order to get the ball that's on the ground, or you have to stretch, or the flip to the pitcher, which should be better than some other guys do. But overall, like that's always going to be something to watch. Yeah, and like I said, and the new guys. I mean, whether it's Bichette, Simeon, like. I'm just very curious to see, first time City Field, kind of get that out of the way, and just kind of get all the jitters gone, and get ready to show what you can do. Because I mean, a lot of these guys, they're veterans. You know what I mean? Like Simeon, Bichette, like some of these guys have played in the World Series before, so this is not going to be immense pressure for them. But still, it's just going to be good to see, like I said, the games actually count. So we'll see how that is.
Yeah. I also want to put out a spotlight here onto Francisco Alvarez. Make a statement. Make a statement. Say that you're here to stay. Tell me that you are here to stay as the full-time catcher, and stay healthy. That's all I ask. Please stay healthy. Protect your hand, okay? Your hand is your hand is lava. Don't let it touch the floor so it spreads. You know what I mean? I don't think I've made that analogy correctly, but it's just one of those things. Make a statement. If you want to homer off of Paul Skeens, please do. I would love to see that. I would love to see that. I would not oppose to Frank flexing that constantly, because I would love to see that. I mean, your old guy who's in Sacramento now, he actually has a homer against Skeens, which is actually pretty funny. The fact that he has seemed to be the guy that has hit him better than almost anybody, because Paul Skeens has been so dominant throughout his entire career. I think that's hilarious. But we'll see. We will see. Brendan's saying, is it too much to ask Alvarez in a traditional catcher's stance? That's another thing that we've talked about that could, affect because he's had injuries to his hands catching behind the plate too. I remember him jamming his finger in a game that I went to, like I said, against the Pirates, that they were kind of nursing, and then he hurt his thumb, and it kind of derailed everything. Then they bring in Luis Torrens, and a lot of things shift. But hopefully we learn from the injuries. Hopefully we learn, and this is a lot more of a smarter team that we see on the field. A lot more of a team that pays attention to detail and doesn't put themselves in position where it either hurts the team or hurts their progress as a player. So we'll see how it goes. But if again, Francisco Alvarez wants to replicate what he did to Sean Manaea yesterday, please do it. Make a statement, please. Because again, we all know what he is capable of. 100%. We just have to see it consistently. And I know that Frank wants to see that. 100%. I think we all do want to see it. Either way, some yapping to do on our way out. Michael Conforto made the Cubs opening day roster. Why? I don't know, because he didn't really play that well. But congrats to Mike. Conforto. What can we say? I don't know. But also other former Mets, Jared Kelenic missed the opening day roster for the White Sox. That's a stripped down team. So if you don't make that team, oh boy, it's funny to me that the Mets have lost so many trades over these years. The one that they have seemed to get away with, or it seems to, they have seemed to like come out on top or come out by default, is possibly one of the dumbest thought process trades you could possibly ever see. Trading for a reliever, taking on 6 years of an aging contract, and also giving up minor league assets along with it. It's not great process. It ended up working out on the Mets' end, I guess technically by default. They won the trade, but it's funny seeing a no-brainer trade for, Ryan Helsley didn't work out, but this trade, it seems like we've come out on top of. It's crazy. I don't know, Frank, I don't know if you look back on it, it's like, how did the Mets come out on top of it? Because it was looking ugly in the first year.
Yeah, I mean, it was scary between Cano and Diaz. I mean, you were just like, can we get anything out of this? But I mean,
Yeah.
that deal had some other things that people don't talk about enough. Like there were some bad contracts the Mets got off of, like Swarzak, Jay Bruce. Like the Mets
Yeah.
also sent away some bad contracts in return. I know the Cano contract was longer, but there were some other contracts that
Yeah.
were going to pay that they chose to pay that ended up not having to because they moved them. So
Yeah.
I mean that part of it was good. We'll see what Diaz does in his new team as well. But I mean a lot of these guys they bounce around and some don't pay
Yeah.
out. The other Mets outfielder got traded away, as we know, Pete Armstrong got a huge extension last night.
They
from the
did.
Cubs.
Yeah. Congrats to him.
So congrats to PCA. If anything, it's more so we regret trading PCA away for a rental than Jared Kelenic for the reliever on the long-term deal.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, I loved Javi Baez for his time here. I think we all kind of make fun of it a little bit more because it seemed like in the same time we had our GM get a DUI or interim GM get a DUI, and it was like, oh,
Because
was he
the
drunk
other
when he made
GM
this
did
trade?
something dumber.
Yeah, the other GM did something.
A streak
Oh my God.
of like
That first year
Yeah.
was brutal in like I don't know how the hell he didn't just like is like, okay, a year
Maybe
I
this
give
wasn't
up.
a good idea.
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. A year I give up. Let's sell this team again. But some other stuff. We had a former umpire, since it's this in the final. This year is the ABS system that is being introduced, and it's very relevant because it's new. It's going to be in the regular season, finally at the major league level. We had an ex-umpire, Richie Garcia, who talked about the ABS system, and I really just was not having it, and it kind of annoyed me considering the situation that we've seen with umpires and overall accountability recently that has not been fantastic. And he said about the ABS system, saying, I think it's embarrassing to umpires that are calling the game. Nobody likes to be humiliated in front of 30,000, 40,000 people. And listen, I understand that feeling. And we all know the humiliation that we've seen from umpires when they mess up a call, because there are passionate fans who are invested in their team. And when a call doesn't go their way, they take it to a different extreme, which again is not something that fans should be doing. With some fans, they like to, put the guys' families in it, and that type of shitty stuff is not acceptable. However, personally, I think you should be sparing me of this, because I said this on Twitter and they said, again, it's a simple cause and effect. And like we always say with the Mets of like, they should have won if they wanted this to happen or wanted this to progress. It's a simple cause and effect to where it's like, if you didn't want ABS to elevate the way that it has, guys like Angel Hernandez, guys like Joe West, guys like Laz Diaz, Mike Estabrook, Brian O'Nora, who also has some other legal issues that he faced as well. We can list these guys on plenty because of how many blown calls they've had. They shouldn't have been employed, or they shouldn't have been employed as long as they have if you didn't want this problem arising. And I feel like, the MLB and the Umpire Association have allowed this constant abuse of power and just blatant incompetence with no accountability. Have we ever seen like umpires get fined or suspended for a bad call that was, very crucial to a game, or possibly very crucial to a playoff race to one team, or possibly like, you can't complain about the effect and also enable the cause at the same time. Like, there has to be a give and take here. And I feel like, trying to fish sympathy of like, oh, I don't want to be embarrassed. You were embarrassing yourself so much by employing some of these guys who were not the best, who were some of the worst, and even have compilations on YouTube of them being so awful at umpiring. So again, it's just one of those things. It's like, we needed it to happen because it went on for so long. And, change had to be made. I mean, Frank, I don't know how you feel about it, but again, the human element is a part of the game. We all know that it is. And it's something that, gets pointed out. There's been plenty of blown calls that go down in history. And that's another dimension of baseball. But when it comes to, technology such as this, when you have it available, you got to add it in somewhere to adapt. And that's what Major League Baseball is doing. Long overdue, in my opinion. Long overdue. But when we start to see these umpires, like saying, oh, I don't want to be embarrassed, you were embarrassing yourself a long time. And it's not every umpire, but a decent amount of them. If you know their name, that's usually not a good thing.
Yeah, I think more so it's like if you don't want to get embarrassed, get the calls right. Because, we were watching spring training have this ABS system. I like that it's a quick process. I like that, if you feel the call was wrong, just a tap on the helmet, and it's pretty quick. Like, they show it on the board. Okay, it was a ball. Keep moving. Like, what we don't want is these other instances where you see these replays that take like 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and just totally ruins the flow of the game. At least it's not another one of those. But I think overall, then you see games that don't have the ABS system, like the WBC, and whether the calls against Juan Soto or just some other calls in that game that were very low,
Perdomo.
that were easy to just be like, okay, let's challenge that. That should have been called something else. That's an embarrassment for the sport because, like you said, the control and power of like that was blatantly wrong, and there's nothing we could do about it. It's just like, oh no, well because I say it's a strike, it is, so the game's over. Like it's stuff like that where it's like, okay, well you kind of need a system for when there's something extreme, and it's those type of circumstances where you're like, okay, that's where it would be nice to have, because like if you just get the call right, then no one's complaining, no one's saying anything. We don't even need the system. We don't need to challenge it if you're getting stuff right. But I mean, we see some reports where it's like you're just so wrong. And last thing for me with umpiring, I always say it's more so consistency. Like if you're a low ball umpire, that's fine. Fair. Like but what I don't like is the one that says the consistency is off, where it's just like you'll see the thing that bothers me is the same exact pitch, back to back pitches. One is a ball, one is a strike, and I'm like, okay, well, what are we doing here? What is the strike zone? That's the stuff that more so drives me nuts. Where I'm like, okay, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's the one thing, the overall consistency of like not calling it both ways. Obviously, that definitely is something that I think a lot of NBA teams complain about, with like a hierarchy of the whistle, of the type of free throws that they were getting. Because sometimes there is some imbalance in those games. But with baseball, I mean, like I said, I personally, I kind of extend a little bit of an olive branch to the umpires sometimes with balls and strikes of like, okay, if they get it right or they get it wrong, it's more of just the tunneling of the pitches. Cause like, obviously this is my nerd talking, my nerd side talking here of baseball, but it's more of like, obviously sometimes it's subjective to if the ball was in the strike zone at some point. When there's a call that was like the ball was never in the strike zone, such as that Perdomo call at the end of the WBC semifinal for Team Dominican Republic and Team USA, like it was never in the strike zone. So that's a blown call, and they should be held accountable for that. And I feel like, there are some infamous ones, the Jim Joyce call for Galarraga's, what was it, perfect game? This is perfect game that got messed up. And it actually is, kind of his legacy now, Jim Joyce. But if you asked around the league, and Galarraga as well, who, did not have as long of a career.
Pitcher in general. So that was like his one big game that was ruined.
Yeah, that was his one big game that was ruined. I'm pretty sure he was like struggling before that. And then he kind of like, had that one game there, and it was all, messed up in that way. But again, like, not coincidentally, but like ironically, Jim Joyce, if you actually ask, was actually a really good umpire. Like he was one of the best at that time. And that's the crazy thing to see. It's like, if you know the umpire's name, and obviously this is a certain circumstance, usually it's not a great thing, and that's the one thing where, we even saw, the umpire auditing, accounts on Twitter where they would show like the calls for the games and everything. And then we also had, weighing out the worst or showing the best or who was the most accurate. We saw Pat Hoiberg be like one of the best. And unfortunately, he got, what was it? He got banned or something for like something with the sports gambling or something. So we were all like, is there ever is there one umpire that has one shot of integrity, accuracy, and is good at their job? And that just shows you it's like, one of the few good umpires, one of the few good umpires that are good at their job. They get overshadowed by the bad umpiring because we all know that bad publicity is the best publicity. Like if something's controversial, it's controversial. And, Jim Joyce blowing a call for a perfect game, that's got media written all over it right there. And I'm pretty sure that Jim Joyce, there's a whole 30 for 30 about it on ESPN, that Galarraga and Joyce, they still keep in touch. I think they collaborate on a book as well. Like it has those types of impacts. And when, you see mistakes made like that, you have to take the initiative to make sure it doesn't happen again. And this is how things like this don't happen again. You have the replay now, you have the ABS, you have this certain technology. And with the pitch clock here, you have kind of some extra time if there is a review needed. And, these are professionals. So when I hear from former umpires, oh, I don't want to be embarrassed. It's like, dude, you're a professional. And this is the same thing of when people get at me for criticizing players on the Mets. I don't go after them personally on here, but I go after them in a critique way. But it's like, again, at the end of the day, wanting grown men to do their job, they get paid millions of dollars, sue me. I'm a fan of the team. I want to see them succeed. And when I don't see something I don't like, I'm going to point it out. It's the same thing for umpires as well. Their performance matters as well. And we have seen in that dimension on Twitter recently, the umpire audits, those are out there. Some other stuff. One more thing. We had a report from Anthony DiComo today that Drew Smith is getting... I'm sorry, I don't want to talk about this either, Frank. We're just going to have to get through it. Drew Smith is drawing interest from 15 plus teams after being, DFA'd by the Nationals or whatever, and the Mets are one of them. Do we feel better about Richard Lovelady now, Frank? Enough already. Oh my God, enough. How many times are we going to go back to the well like this? He's part of a losing core, a losing part of the organization. He obviously has, lack of dog, like we've talked about. It's just give it up already. Why is this a thing? It's stop going back to the well when the well sucked. It's enough already. Let it go.
The guy got DFA'd for a reason. You know what I mean? He didn't make the team.
Yeah.
Well, you just got DFA'd by Nationals.
Oh, by the Nationals, yeah.
Yeah, by Nationals, yeah. So I was saying. So it's if someone wasn't good enough to make the team, it's why would you want him on your team? It's
and the Nationals are not that good of a team.
Yeah, exactly. So it's you can't make National bullpen. What makes you think that he should make yours? If anything, that's more so just a bad... It just shows how the situation the Mets bullpen is in that you're even considering him. The fact that you have Richard Lovelady in there and that Brian Hudson was in consideration, it's more so just the problem is that you are even considering Drew Smith. So I think that definitely is something that is not what you want to see. And I think overall, if you're a team like the Mets that just missed the playoffs last year, the last thing you want to do is bring in Drew Smith so he could face the San Francisco Giants or some type of West Coast team. That's what he likes to blow it. He loves to blow it on the West Coast where you stay up super late and then he gives up a late home run in a close game and then they lose it. So you would hate to just be oh, let's sign Drew Smith because he got DFA just for him to blow a big game and then you have to get rid of him anyway. So it's he costed you the playoffs basically. I'm over exaggerating, but overall it's still just you kind of know you kind of know what to expect here.
We've seen these domino effects before,
he's
so I don't blame you.
coming off of injuries and things like that. He's not getting better. He doesn't have Jeremy Hafner anymore, so maybe that will help a little bit.
Maybe he goes to the Braves.
The jury's still out, but I hope not. I don't want to see.
Please no. No thanks. Just no more.
Please don't.
Please, I think we just enough already. It's just I just move on. Already, we had Peter Heffernan saying here, you related to Doug Heffernan from King of Queens? I don't know. That we have to ask because we're Mets fans, so that's a Mets lore question. He said, I drove to Pittsburgh for that series. It was awful. Mets were a disgrace. Great stadium. I hear it is a great stadium. Good food, good people. Hopefully you weren't eating the people and saying hi to the food, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. But apparently, I've heard it is a nice ballpark. But yeah, apparently Judge has already a hat trick in strikeouts. So listen, picking up where he was at the WBC. Still upset about that. Let's just say that is, when you follow a team, you get upset when they fail, when your stars fail. We've talked about it, but we were following during the WBC, and Mr. Judge. Last few things. I'm getting some screenshots from Twitter of what is going on this broadcast. Netflix, what the hell is this?
Oh no.
That is brutal. What is this? Can somebody explain what went through their head? I understand that there's plenty of graphic ideas that have been taken because a lot of these, but this is terrible. What is that? And then also we're seeing like green screen glitches as well, like this. Like,
oh no!
What? Oh, there's Marlins man in there at the back.
Of course.
But
not even watching the game, just too busy on his phone trying to get more attention. Not even watching the game.
Not even on his, yeah. But like, I get it's opening day. Sometimes you work out the kinks, but it's like, you paid for this, Netflix. What the hell? This is awful. What? Like, let me pop that up one more time. What the hell is that?
It almost looks like a face. Like the zeros are eyes. I see like a nose. Like, what is this thing? Oh,
that's
my goodness.
Bad. I mean, I didn't really like, what was it?
Like with a blockhead, like I don't know. It's like a Lego with a beard or something.
Yeah, I think Netflix did like Christmas football,
NFL,
and then they had their thing. I thought that graphic was okay, but this, I don't know what this is a variation from. That's just that is ugly. But yeah, other than that, like we said, we're gonna send you out with one more promo because it's very, very important. A reminder to tune in tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday afternoon for watch along and post game coverage of the Mets versus Pirates series, hosted by the newest members of Mets Weekly, Evan and Matt, as they will be doing it throughout all 162 games. 10 minutes before first pitch, barring any delay that is needed throughout the season, because things happen, for live play-by-play and commentary, banter, out-of-pocket jokes, and maybe some special guests along the way. It all starts tomorrow, opening day, 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Mets versus Pirates. We hope to see you guys there. Other than that, we are going to wrap it up here. Frank, I'll give you your last comments, your last locker room talk to this team going into opening day, because we got a long season ahead of us. Plenty on the way for content-wise for this channel as well. And thank you to Max Goodman for joining us for the first half of this show. Again, his links are in the description. He did fantastic work throughout throughout spring training, his first year on the beat. So make sure, be nice to him. All right, guys. I know that everybody gets even tempered, but welcome people into the environment here. Don't go nuts. All right. I know that there's some reporters that everybody gets on a lot, and for good reason. But Max seems like a decent stand-up guy. All right. Let's not ruin him and scar him. We don't want him to have any gray hairs after this season. All right. Like Frank, lots of gray hairs developing as you get older. Right.
That's how it goes. I mean, so definitely, like you said, thank you to Max. We definitely do appreciate it. But overall, I mean, that's just kind of a goal. Don't add more gray hairs. Don't make it a stressful year. Start off on the right foot. But again, I mean, it's more so just like we want to see the consistency. Like we said, the swing decisions, the approach. I mean, all those things have got to be different. We don't want to see great hitters counts taking down the middle and chasing and friendly pitcher counts. Like the stuff like that is really what we're looking at. Get a clutch hit, runners in scoring position, trailing. Show some, like we said last episode, show some dog. Like, I mean, that's what we want. We want to see like a different, like we're hearing, different vibes, different clubhouse, things like that. But really you have to see it on the field. I mean, when you see a
Yes.
team that shows more fight, that shows like more of an effort, does the little things right, or doesn't make silly mistakes, that's where we'll believe that okay, yes, this is a different ball club. Because I mean, money is just a number at this point. Like you could have a great payroll, it doesn't always equal great success. It's more so what the people do with it. So I mean, that's really what we're going to look at here. Is that it's a big year for Mendoza. They've changed almost all the players. They changed the rest of the coaching staff. He's the last guy left. So I'm going to be watching his decisions very closely because I felt like based off the way this team did last year, there was a case you could make that he didn't really need to be back next year. And the first half of his first season, where they look like one of the worst teams in the league. So for a majority of his 2 years, the Mets have been a bad team. So that's something that they have to consider. So he has not shown, he's still, an inexperienced manager. So we need to see something different. They've changed a lot. They got rid of the core players. They blamed the core. So it's now to see if this manager is the real deal. David Stearns, I mean, like I said, look for that sustained success. And a lot of young guys are going to be contributing. So it's going to be a different year. It's going to be an interesting year. And we're waiting for it to start.
Yeah, give me a team that is easy to root for. Like a team that I am excited to watch every night. Give me a team that I'm like, okay, maybe we have a chance to win. Not, oh, will they show up today? I don't know. We don't know. We have no idea, even though we have a $400 million payroll. Don't give me that type of team. All right? Don't show me of like, oh, do you want to show up tonight? Don't do that. How about that? Give me a team that is out there that wants to compete every single time, every single day, and has that push and has the I don't know what am I trying to say, the mindset to go 1-0 every single day. That's what I want, and hopefully that goes throughout the leadership, like you said, the manager. This is also Carlos Mendoza's final year of his contract. So again, it all lines up. So for that, if they get off to a slow start, could we be talking about them replacing him with someone? Who knows? But let's not get off to a slow start. How about that? How about we play good baseball? Because we were lacking that a lot last year, and I don't want to see that again. I really don't. Either way, we're going to end it off here. Like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Once again, thank you to Max Goodman for joining us. His links are all in the description. Make sure to go check him out. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation live in the future, make sure to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel. Turn on those post notifications to know when we go live, which will be the day following every regular season series this season, as we did usually for the last 2 years. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok. Follow all of us individually, including the newest members of Mets Weekly, Evan and Matt from Mets Central. They are coming over here to be permanent members of Mets Weekly. So please welcome them with open arms, even though you guys have seen him on the show plenty of times. And of course, let's go Mets. And we will see you guys next time.